Welcome everybody to the show. Today we are talking about the one, the only, the most hated legion in the entirety of the Imperium and far beyond that.
The Ultramarines.
Close.
Yes.
The Dark Angels.
Close.
Iron Warriors.
They're like fourth.
Salamanders
Iron
when you're on Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Damn!
Jesus.
Iron Hands.
No, keep going.
Emperor's children.
No, keep going.
Alpha Legion.
Close, actually.
Oh,
That
oh,
one. A lot of
okay,
people
okay.
hate Alpha Legion.
World
for their
Eaters.
fuckery.
Sons of Horus.
Do people really hate Sons of Horus? I feel like
I don't know. That's a
I've
good question.
never run into someone who says they like the Sons of Horus.
I've
I've never run into anybody that says they hate the Sons of Horus, though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Has anybody like ran into an actual like Sons of Horus or Luna Wolves, like a dedicated player?
I mean, dedicated player, no. I would say, I guess we could say Luna Wolves, like, fanboy. Yes. Sons of Horus fanboy, no. Yeah.
They're the most neutral legion in the entirety of the
They are.
Astartes chapters.
And that's why Horus was chosen War Master.
Now it all makes sense.
Nobody cares for or cares against the Sons of Horus. Like,
Yeah, because like Space Wolves, you either love them or you hate them. There's like no in between.
Yeah, absolutely not.
If you're a Space Wolves player, you automatically hate fucking Thousand Suns players.
yeah. And if you're a Thousand Suns player, you automatically are the victim.
If you're an Iron Hands player, you automatically hate fucking Emperor's Children players. If you're Emperor's Children players, you just want to rape everybody.
It's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, funny story about Emperor's Children.
Ooh, can I get a peppermint Zen?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
So,
Zen me up, baby.
I got you, Zenny. So, long story short, I was going around and I was really active in my local like Warhammer store for the longest time. Okay, because that's what I did. I was working like 2 jobs. One of them was like stocking in the morning. It was like 5 to 9.
For backstory on this, refer to episode 1.
Was it on episode 1?
I'm pretty sure that was where we told that was where we told all of our backstories and everything.
shit.
Well, basically how we got into
Holy shit!
Yeah.
God,
It's
it's been
been a
so
while.
long.
Damn, dude. But long story short, I was going around and then I had like a night shift. So I had like night shift, morning shift, and then I had like nothing in between. But both my jobs were right by the Warhammer store. So I would get off morning shift, I would go to the Warhammer store, I would spend all day there, and when the store closed, I went to my second job, and then I went to bed, rinse, repeat. It was a fucking weird time. But they were running like a little store campaign, and they were giving out like different stuff, or like small little trinkets, and they said, "Hey, write up a backstory for your army in this battle and stuff like this." And the one guy who was Emperor's Children wrote a fucking like porno level fan fiction, and then he said, and then he submitted it. Apparently, the actual store manager, kind of like read it, and he just said no. And then he gave out the award. Somebody else got it. And he's like, why didn't mine win? Mine was like 10 pages long. And it's like, this dude's almost like 2 paragraphs. It's like, yeah, but yours was pornographic. And he's like, no, it's not. And then like in the middle of the story, he tries to read out the fucking story. And then he gets shut down at Emperor's Chode. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's funny.
Did you just say Emperor's Chode?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Emperor's Chode?
Yes.
Chodron?
No, Chode.
Just Chodron?
Chode. No, Chode.
Children of the Chode?
Yeah. I don't fucking know. It's just,
Chodron.
that's what he fucking, I don't fucking know, man.
I feel like the Emperor definitely doesn't have a chode.
I'm just saying. Well, that was apparently the name of his flagship his guys were on. So
Oh,
I don't.
God.
fuck-
The
I don't-
Emperor's
The
Chode.
Emperor's Chode.
All right. Well, speaking
Was
of
it a
Emperor's
phallic
Chode,
vessel?
According to him, yes.
God damn
Okay,
it.
well,
You are now listening to Heresy FM. This ain't your commissar station.
speaking of the Emperor's Chode, today we're talking about the Word Bearers, the biggest chodes in the entirety of the
The
Imperium.
turd bearers.
Yeah.
The turd bearers, the bearers of the turd.
Word bearers are like a bar hoe. You know, they always got their lips wrapped around somebody's dick, and the moment that doesn't work out, they're the worst person imaginable, and they go to the exact opposite. Yeah.
I don't want to do this episode.
Hey, I'm
Listen,
drinking.
nobody wants to do this episode. However, they weren't 2nd or 11th legioned, so
Damn.
we
Step
have to
bro.
deal with it.
Edit summon my weed pen.
Weed pen activate.
Yeah, they were not the purged
Weed
nor the
noises.
forgotten, so we have to do them.
So in the beginning, there was the word bearers.
Well,
And the universe considered this a very, very bad deal.
I mean, technically, in the beginning, there were the Imperial Heralds or the Iconoclasts.
I hate them.
I already hate them. So actually, originally these guys were pretty cool. They originally stood apart from other legions for their duty and their outlook. The original recruits were drawn from the sons of the defeated armies and raised to know the sins of the father and the price of the emperor's forgiveness.
So they were kind of like self-flagellating, just
They
as
were
part of their indoctrination.
like automatic penance, like off the rip, like almost like a 40k Kriegsman, you know, nowadays, but a Legionis Astartes, so a fucking monster.
Yeah.
The name, the Imperial Heralds, were given the name due to their early role to deliver the Emperor's ultimatum. A lone herald in a black armor and a skull mask came before a warlord, and basically it gave him simple instructions: submission or destruction.
Okay, fine. That goes kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie. They still suck though.
Lone herald, black armor, and a fucking skull. So basically a chaplain almost.
Yeah.
Just one single chaplain walks up to you, says, "Submit or be destroyed."
Did he have a little choir boy by his side?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. So, yeah, so part of it is like in one hand, the word bearers. Okay, just speaking like not even chronologically as we're going to go through this episode, but like overall, knowing what we know, okay, as word bearers, I want to like them. Okay, I'm being entirely real. I want to like them because the concept of having super fucking basically super fucking evil, just maniacal super soldiers who are fucked up with like eldritch abominations is a cool fucking idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool fucking idea. Like that's badass. I look at that, I'm like, yeah, it's badass. And then you see the actual word bearers, not necessarily like their armor or anything else, but it's just like, and then you like learn about the characters, and you're like,
See, armor. I'll be the, I guess, neutral party in this because I halfway respect the World Eaters. I mean, not the World Eaters, the Word Bearers. Fuck Erebus.
Yep.
For starters, we forgot that first and foremost.
Yeah, fuck Erebus.
The first thing you need to know about the Word Bearers is fuck Erebus.
Yeah, fuck Erebus. Literally the most evil God. Okay, the second thing about this, not to distract too much, maybe I'm just buying time for Corn to get his drink, but GW, these guys are excellent writing. And you may be like, what the fuck you talking about? Because you just spend like however long dissing on them without even getting into what they are, right? But they're fucking good at being bad. Okay? GW knows what they have on their hands, and they say, oh yeah, it's the word bearers. And they write some of the best villains because from the bottom of my heart, I genuinely hate them. Okay? Like unironically, just fucking unabashed hate. Okay?
And that's the thing.
For a literary fictional legion, hate.
And that's the and that's the perfect thing about creating characters like this. They they even had something like this in the Game of Thrones character. They had what was him?
Joffrey.
Joffrey. Yep, it was Joffrey.
It was Joffrey, but it was the other one. The dude who played what was the Bolton, Ramsay Bolton.
Yep, that was him. Yep.
Yeah, the dude with the dogs. He actually him and Joffrey were actually receiving fucking death threats because of how well they portrayed these like villains and everything. They were getting legitimate death threats, and I feel like if they did like an Erebus or a Word Bears type deal, like they did like a Horus Heresy series live, and they did Erebus right, I feel like it would get probably that level.
It's just frustrating. But
The amount of shit that
though.
this man has done.
It's different though, okay? And I'm
It's
sure
different.
it is different because like we want to get into the difference, and using Joffrey is a really good staple to use for like well written but like characters you absolutely fucking despise or hate. Or honestly, I hated Bolton more than I did Joffrey. Joffrey was just like a spoiled little shit.
I fucking hated the shit out of some Joffrey.
Oh, me too. But I put
Bolton
more-
at least had some funny parts.
So along the lines of that, upon the defeat, another cool thing about the Imperial Heralds, upon the defeat of an enemy, the Imperial Heralds would empty out the libraries and records of anything deemed heretical or sorcerous. Completely empty them out, destroy the libraries.
That's such a like big difference between obviously like where they are now, so to say, right?
Big flip of the
Big
coin.
flip of the coin. Yeah, that's very much like a Rust type thing.
Yeah.
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 It is, yeah.
Very Russish.
Yeah.
Russish.
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 Fenrisian thing to do.
Very
Russian.
Fenrisian thing to do.
Yeah.
Very
So basic information, because I kind of forgot this. Obviously, their Primarch is Lorgar. Their lords, Erebus, Corpheron, and there are other Dark Apostles among the Dark Council nowadays,
Yep.
which is their governing rule
Basically
now.
governing body. Yeah.
Corpheron,
In
another
40k
piece
is
of
the
shit.
Dark Council.
Their war cry, they just chant passages from the Book of Lorgar.
Oh, brother.
Going on to our next part, we'll start with their original homeworld of Colchis.
You know, before we get this, let's do something because me and you are both drinking. Every time he says Erebus, we take a drink.
Oh God! All right, I'm
Okay,
down.
I'm down.
Like this.
Okay.
Mama ain't raised no
Okay,
bitch.
got it, yeah.
No, but it has to be like organic.
Yeah, organic. It can't be like you just shouting Erebus 20 times.
Damn it!
Yeah, I got it.
That would be too easy.
Cheers.
Here
we
cheers. Let's go. Let's
If we
do
get
this.
anything wrong, it's because drinking. We have our
Yeah.
alibi ready.
Let's see how I can do this.
Organically.
So Lorgar,
We say this and group immediately starts thinking of 20 different ways to kill us with alcohol. Okay.
Exactly.
So originally, Lorgar, Erebus, and
Oh my God.
Corpheron
Fine.
were born on the world of Colchis.
you know what?
Eternal,
Then
the
after-
eternal struggle between alcoholics and stoners.
You know what? Let's
Scott.
change this up. Every time he mentions how Erebus fucked up everything,
Organically.
we drink.
Then, yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
How he was the cause for whatever the fuck bad thing happened.
Yeah, I agree.
So originally their homeworld was on Colchis, but then Erebus had to go fuck everything up, and they ended up on the demon world of
You're a
Sicarius.
dick.
I mean, that is pretty.
But
right.
also because Erebus fucked everything up, they also reside in the Hellforge of Galmac.
And that's their current day residence, yeah.
Yes, is Sicarius destroyed or something? I don't know about.
I don't fucking know.
I don't
You
fucking
think I
know.
waste my time on word bearer lore?
I just
don't-
write the outline.
Jeremy, Jamie, fucking whoever.
We've had like one sip.
I
Corn.
know this is how bad it's gonna get with this episode.
We're gonna have a good
alright.
time. Hope you guys have a good time too.
While he's
So-
looking that up, we'll start on the world of Colchis. So, you know,
Yeah, how did this begin? Where did the jizz pod land?
the Jizz Pod landed on the feudal. Oh, this is a feudal world. Haven't had too many of these.
Yeah.
So, the feudal world of Colchis. What can you tell us about Colchis, Jamie?
I know. So Colchis,
when it comes to Sicarius is still up and at him.
we're not talking about cigars anymore.
I understand,
Oh.
but you told me to look it up. So with Sicarius, it actually is still up and at him. It's still used by the word bearers, and the seat of the Dark Council, called the Basilica of the Word, is there. Along with that is where they also bury the bodies of Dark Apostles.
Huh. The more you know.
Yeah. So they actually reside in both Sicarius and
Galmac.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say modern day trade religions have a tendency to not usually be isolated to specifically one planet. They sometimes have like one planet is like this is our planet, but they're spread. They're spread. But whenever it comes to Colchis, obviously we hear the word feudal world, and
See,
we
look
immediately
at
start.
that armor and tell me that's
my
not
God, stay on
drippy as
track.
fuck.
Oh.
Sorry.
I mean, that armor does
Oh.
drip. I'm not gonna lie.
That
to you.
armor does drip, and that's why I like the word bearers.
pre-heresy armor. I stand by that.
Whatever.
The
So
slave
tell us
ray.
about
Yeah,
Colchis,
slave
Sephiroth.
ray with the writing on it. Yeah. Anyways, we want to think of like feudal worlds as like European feudal, right? And for like the Dark Angels, right? That was a feudal world, stuff like, well, death world, but also feudal society, right?
Right.
Now, whenever we think about that stuff, that's what we usually think of. That's where our minds normally go to. At least I have a feeling for most of us. But for this stuff, it was a lot more like Middle Eastern in terms of like culture as well as almost like landscape, right?
I was about to say, whenever I think of feudal worlds, I usually think
It's got the forest, it's got the knights, it's got the,
I mean, that's kind of where it first goes to, unless it's like something different. Like I could understand like Prospero being a feudal type world or whatever.
yeah.
And being like Egyptian, you know, kind of Middle Eastern Arabic or whatever. Or like Colchis being like almost like Middle Eastern, like Indian.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes sense, type deal. Like
Well, Middle Eastern is exactly that, because it was very much sort of like a Middle Eastern type place, right?
Right.
If we want to look at the real world Middle East, it's very much like that, where it's a lot of basically religion, but also water is not the most common, easily accessible resource like in a lot of other places, right?
Do you think that Lorgar talked like this all the time?
No, because Logar wasn't Indian.
No, it was like Middle Eastern.
It was
Like going back to like the skin tone thing and everything else, just so we can get.
My name is Erebus, and I am a member of the Word Bearers Legion.
I work for AT&T
It wasn't that. It wasn't
customer
that
support.
type of middle. That's too far into Asia. We're talking
Yeah,
like
we're talking about Middle East.
we're talking like our like Persian territory type stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
That type of stuff.
that's
yeah,
what they're
yeah.
looking for.
Yeah, but long story short, water was not super reliable. A lot of times it was a lot more of a clustered settlement, right? So you have sort of almost like oasis of civilizations.
Oases?
Oases or oasis?
Oasis.
We're retarded.
Oh, wait.
I don't
Fucking
know.
English.
Jamie, what's the
What's the
plural of oasis?
Fuck that. I'm not.
I'm assuming
looking
just
that up.
oasis, right? With the S because it's plural, but already has an S. Anyways,
I think it's oases.
Oases.
Just like crisis is crises.
oh, fair enough on that. I thought it was just. Oh, anyways, so long story short,
I don't know.
we've had like 2 sips. We're terrible at this. So
Jesus, yeah, right.
so long story short, you had like bundles of civilization. Right?
Oases.
Oh my god.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I thought so.
Forget the drinking game. I'm just gonna start drinking. Okay.
Did I tell you
Let's
guys
drink
about
every
how
time we get
I'm
some-
going out of work tomorrow. Fuck
Yeah.
you guys.
Let's drink every time we don't know how to pronounce something.
Oh god.
Did I tell you guys about how Erebus fucked everything up?
Not organic. Not organic. So that being said, you have bundles of civilization. Okay, you basically have the hotspots, and it wasn't very spread out. It was a lot more, as we say, like vertical as compared to horizontal when it comes to the civilizations, right? You have major cities, but you have a lot of travel between the cities, but they weren't super spread out over the planet like we might imagine with hive cities or Terra, where it's like all over and super congested.
Yeah.
We're talking like massive cities, but it was a very religious place, right? To the point that that was one of the main things that basically Lorgar was concerned with as he was basically being grown up and kind of fostered by Corferon. Blessed be his name. And then we continue onwards to this stuff until finally there was actually correct me if I'm wrong, there's like a religious, when Lorgar finally landed there and he was tutored by Corferon, he eventually had a sort of religious uprising against the established rulers.
Yeah, so he had visions of, as this was going on, he had visions of the Emperor coming, as everybody pretty much in their own special way does. And he had a very, very, very brutal series of religious wars that eventually unified Colchis.
So, do you want to hear a fun fact about Colchis
Sure.
and how fucked up the time difference is? It's all right. We have daylight savings time, which sets clocks, back an hour.
Right.
We have the end of it where it's clock go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Colchis.
We technically felt well.
So-
I know what you mean.
Colchis takes 4.8 Terran years to orbit its sun, right? And 170.4 Terran hours to rotate once around its axis, where it gives it an extended day and night cycle. So basically, humans couldn't adapt to that. So they had to figure out a new way to keep track of time. And they divided it into sub-days, 7 sub-days. So you have dawn away, morn day, long noon, post noon, dusk eve, cold fall, and high night. And then these sub-days are further divided into 3 segments, wake rise, wake main, and rest eve to correlate most closely to a Terran day. So basically, if you were on Colchis, you would have what? Okay, so a standard day on Earth
Yeah.
is 24 hours.
Yeah.
Theirs is 170 hours. So think about it. 170 hours, that's what? You got in a 40-hour work week, let's say. that's like 4 days or 4 weeks worth of work.
Yeah, but can I still do 8 hours of work a day and just leave it there?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Think of a 40-hour work week of you working. That's just the morning.
God damn.
That's just your morning. Your morning is 40 hours.
I still like to imagine that was on a standard like fucking like a fucking work cycle where it's like, oh yeah, you'll come in for the morning.
So you know how like breakfast is from like 6 to 10?
Yeah.
So that would be the equivalent of your morning. And then brunch would be your afternoon, and then lunch would be your normal, like your evening time, and then night would be wherever you ate
Work
dinner.
80 hours nonstop. Be a man.
Yeah. Yeah. 170. And even if you did like it's effectively 4 weeks for one fucking day.
Damn.
Live on Colchis and get your whole 40-hour work week done in one day. Be a man.
Be a man.
No
Do it.
shit. So yeah, I can imagine living there would be hell.
Oh yeah.
So, was there anything like super special about Lorgar's religious
About, like
wars?
the upbringing specifically.
Not really. I mean, basically before Big E shows up,
Erebus is an Erebus.
Yeah,
I know
Erebus
that's
is
kind
not
of a-
Erebus, but
That's kind of a side related thing.
did Erebus start fucking everything up like beforehand?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like because during this time, now obviously Erebus kind of was a natural starter. It's not like Corferon where they kind of like voodooed him into being an Astartes.
Right.
So it's like a little bit after. This is worth mentioning, right? Because even the beginning before they come into play, we got to talk about obviously Lorgar, but then also
Yeah.
Corferon and Erebus. We got to keep track of them through the entire continuation of this timeline.
Yeah, that's the trifecta right there.
Yeah, but also we have Lorgar. He's with Corferon. Corferon's basically his father.
Yeah.
And at that point, Erebus comes along a little bit later, like the late bastard he is. And what was it? His family thought he was a disappointment. So by the time of the Legion being around, he killed, what was it, his best friend named Erebus?
Basically what happened with Erebus was, yeah, he was a piece of shit. His family hated him. As far as I can remember from what I've read about him, he was a disappointment. He was basically just a piece of shit. And
Fucking everything up from childhood.
if I'm not mistaken, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, they all at a certain age they would all make a pilgrimage to some holy land or whatever. Right.
Oh, Mecca.
I guess basically. While he was on his way, he met somebody else from his village named Erebus. Erebus was like the pride and joy of his family and the village. He was very popular. Everybody knew him. This, and that, blah, blah, blah.
He was the cool kid in school. He had
yeah.
the Heelys, all that stuff.
Yeah, he was the it kid, and being jealous of him whenever he actually killed him and assumed his identity.
Decided to fuck that up.
Yeah, and he fucked up not only that kid's life, well,
No,
ended
that wasn't
that kid's
fucking
life,
everything up. That was just
but
fucking him up.
he fucked
He was
up.
fucking up everything in that kid's life.
Yeah, and that kid's family and everything. Yeah,
I hate this.
and he assumed his identity and
This
went
is
on
beautiful.
to be.
I love this.
He went on to be Erebus from then on forth, being the giant piece of shit.
Was
that
his
he
name
is.
Erebus before he changed it to Erebus?
No.
No, we don't. I don't think we know what his name was.
No,
before it
but
was
this also
Erebus.
ties back to the true name. And this will be something we talk about over. Yeah.
Oh, nobody knows what Erebus's true name
for
is.
context,
Yes.
when you know somebody's true name, right, that gives you like actual power over them through the warp. It's one of the big things. Like, hey, why is the emperor always the emperor, or known by a different name or a title or anything else, or even fake names? Because if you know somebody's true name, you have power over them. Same way for technically Mortarian's true name is not Mortarian, is whatever the full given name was, which I believe only the Grey Knights know. Similar for this. So in this case, Erebus,
I think only one Grey Knight knows.
yeah, only like one Grey Knight knows.
It's like Caldor Drago.
Yeah,
ain't
it's
it?
Caldor.
He
Yeah, of
knows
course
like
it's Caldor
fucking-
Drago.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Caldor Drago knows like almost 5,000 names.
That sounds about right.
Some crazy shit.
And I can barely remember 5. God damn. But
Little known fact, so does Valdor.
Yeah, have fun saying
Well,
history.
Valdor
name.
has like
Yeah.
fucking 40,000 names too.
Well, the only reason Valdor knows is because of the Horus heresy with the Apollonian spear, because he was killing demons with the fucking he was killing demons with the Apollonian spear, and he
Yeah,
ended,
fair on
every
that.
demon he was killing, he was learning its name.
Yeah. But anyway, so he led the revolution. He kind of led that revolution with Corferon, overthrew basically the current existing covenant of the world, because he had the visions of basically the emperor, right? He had the visions of some generic being. It's like, oh, the golden being will come down and deliver us light, and yada yada yada. Insert like generic spiritual prophecy here, okay? And eventually, along comes the emperor.
Sure enough,
Yeah.
in big golden light, and in his fashion as he does
Yeah.
sometimes. Here comes the Emperor in a golden light, and as he arrives, Lorgar and Lorgar and the entire city fall to their knees, worshiping the Emperor,
Wouldn't be the first
rejoicing
time,
and
or
celebrating.
won't be the last time.
Huh?
Won't be the last time.
Won't be the first time, won't be the last time. So they start rejoicing and celebrating, and I can already imagine the Big E just lands and they drop to their knees and they're like, "Oh, praise the Emperor, praise the Golden One," and he's just like, "Ugh."
Oh shit.
Oh,
He
you're
lands
gonna-
and he realizes this is gonna be some work.
oh God, you're gonna be the retarded child, aren't you?
It's like, oh, you're the issue here. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not Russ or
It's not like Gilliman.
You think the Emperor knew that, Lorgar and all them were going to betray him?
I generally think now this is probably a better topic for an actual like video on the topic, but I truly think he did not. I always think he knew it was a possibility. I 100% think he knew it was a possibility, but I don't think he thought it would happen. Because reminder, the entire thing about prophecy is sort of like you see the most likely outcome, right? You get to see the percentage points of saying like, well, according to this, the one reoccurring, we know 20 different variations of the future, but they all have this one thing in common. So therefore, we know this one thing in common is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, 19 out of 20 visions show this happening, so this thing's probably going to happen. That's my guess is that's probably what he thought was going to happen. He's like, hey, I know what's going to happen. There's a chance of that happening, but if I do this move and move this chess piece, then odds are they're not going to betray me, and odds are everything will be okay.
it's not like Sanguinius where 20 out of 20 visions were showing you fucking just
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering because you got to think, like, if the Emperor knew that he's looking at Lorgar, he's like, this motherfucker's going to betray me one day on a scale that could cause humanity to be just completely annihilated. And he still went through with bringing him back and doing all this stuff, just like murdering him right there. Like, you gotta, it makes you wonder, like,
Well, here's also the cool thing about this, and this is why I personally think there's probably a bit of hubris on my part, but I think I kind of cracked the code on terms of prophecy in 40K, is because prophecy does not account for what we can call the indomitable human spirit. Okay, like unironically, if there's a prophecy, but somebody does something they normally wouldn't do, or they do something way above and beyond than anybody would ever expect them to do, that prophecy could account for. It can change stuff, right? That's why we see this recurring trope of here's a prophecy, but here's one guy who does some exceptional deed that's written in a book that changes that future, right? Similar to this. Now, in his case, Erebus fucking everything up. Take a drink. Because also in his prophecy, now granted, he could have scanned this, but he probably wasn't looking at Erebus. But in his prophecy, do you think it was kind of saying Erebus is going to fuck everything up? I mean, it could have been something as simple as true name here will fuck everything up, but he's looking at the Legion and being like, well, true name here isn't here, so everything will be okay. Now, it's kind of may have not been the case. I don't fucking know. That's just wild speculation on my part, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So,
because the other thing, I mean, obviously the Emperor is not stupid,
Yeah.
right? He knows that there's something up, not only with Lorgar, but Erebus and all. Like, he knows there's something up with these guys.
yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, like, does he think it'll just buff out, or is he like, okay, I need to be on my guard, I need to plan for some shit because there's something going on with these guys here.
It's like whenever the cutesy nice girl finds the bad boy and just is like, I can fix him.
Yeah, you got to think, was that going through his head when he seems like, I can fix him?
Well, no. Let's also look at the dominoes, because this makes more sense, right? Because initially, the first domino is Erebus killing Erebus, right? And that's the first thing that kind of is assumedly not kind of planned for.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit fuck you, what you doing, what the fuck's going on there. Erebus joins in. At that point, Erebus starts spreading some chaos, doing some stuff. At this point, without this outside intervention, Magnus, 100% fucking loyal. Fulgrim, 100% fucking loyal. Horus, 100% fucking loyal. If Lorgar did not have the influence of like Erebus and Corpharon, which Corpharon by all rights should not have been Astartes and should have died out almost immediately due to human age, none of those guys who basically started the Horus heresy would have been around, right? So
Yeah, but you had all kinds of exceptions like that. You had Luther. You had fucking who was it? Typhon was. I'm pretty sure Typhon was too old and couldn't take on the Astartes.
that's true. Yeah, no, 100%. So I'm saying it's possible. But the one thing I'm kind of drawing on is that, like, hey, with Luther, we kind of know what's up with him because Luther is technically not an Astartes.
Now that you look at it, really, most first captains were human.
Yeah.
They were
They
just
were
augmented.
the carry-ons. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, for example, like Luther was not a space marine by any true metric. And there was some pushback because of that, because he was given a high position, but also he was not fully augmented space marine. He doesn't have any progenoids, yada, yada.
Right.
He's just a super augmented human. And that was also the case for, well, pretty much anybody else, right? Like Typhon, presumably, was just a super augmented human. It wasn't a case where he's just like, we found a way to do the surgery, but it's risky on a full-grown adult. It was a case of he's just a really augmented human, but because of the entire fact that he also later fell to chaos, then age becomes kind of irrelevant, right?
Right.
Same deal for Luther, right? Now, whenever it comes to Corpharon, pretty much it could be the same deal, but I'm actually kind of thinking back to, this is kind of a weird fucking tangent, but if you look at, bear with me, if you look at Horus Heresy Legions, the trading card game, there's little factoids that pop up, and all those are like interesting little tidbits about the lore.
We are not sponsored by.
We are not sponsored,
We're
though it
not
is a fun
sponsored by
game,
Horus Heresy Legions,
and I'm
by the way.
addicted to it. Cambodia's deck for life, but long story short, but then it goes on to Corpharon, and the Corpharon thing reads something like, Corpharon, despite being too old to being Astartes, as like Lorgar did something to make him Astartes, and nobody knows what. And it's kind of weird because it doesn't say that for Luther or for anybody else, because we know how they became an Astartes because they weren't an Astartes. And even in the books, it says like Corpharon's not an Astartes, but it's a lot more, everybody treats Corpharon with a lot more like skepticism than like Luther or anybody else.
Well, he's not an
Yeah.
Astartes, but yet he's wearing Terminator armor.
That
Which,
too. Honestly,
even
that
with
by
an
itself, yeah.
Even with an augmented human, a Terminator armor
Typhon
would still
does
be
that.
too much.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but
Honestly,
even,
we're going too far down the rabbit hole.
Anyways,
That is what it is.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, going way back on topic, looking back on what happened, all these traitor primarchs were entirely fucking loyal for or the head honchos of it, right? Once again, basically Magnus, Horus, Fulgrim, at least like those three, right?
I mean, shit, even Lorgar. Lorgar was 100% devoted to the Emperor.
oh yeah,
Lorgar was insanely loyal, yeah. But at that point, if you went through prophecy and you didn't account for like the buttfuckery of Corpharon and Erebus, everything would have been okay, right? But then suddenly you have this guy who tricks Horus, and then Horus basically tricks Lehman, and also Magnus gets involved, and then suddenly Fulgrim gets corrupted, et cetera, et cetera. All these dominoes are falling into place due to Erebus. I'll mainly give it to Erebus. Though,
Yeah, no, it was mainly
Corpharon.
Erebus.
Erebus fucking
there's-
everything up?
Yeah, there is a correction I have to make. It wasn't a pilgrimage or anything that Erebus went on. Erebus, from the time he was young, felt his purpose was to manipulate, deceive, and sow discord. That was his, like, he felt like that was his fucking purpose. That he was put on this on that planet to be a
That's
piece
a
of shit
beautiful
like that.
sound for the fucking for the audience.
That was a good sound.
And so his parents were always yelling at him for it. They scolded him for it and like was telling him, hey, why don't you be more like Erebus, who's like the pride of the fucking village and shit, this and that. So Erebus shit Erebus,
Yeah.
got pissed off and went and strangled good Erebus with a garrote, and then took his identity, gave himself the same tattoos as him and everything like that, and then went on to the Covenant of Colchis to be an archpriest there. So it wasn't a pilgrimage or anything. He just straight up murdered this motherfucker in the village, and then took his identity, and then became a priest.
Yeah. He was a bastard from day one.
So even as a kid, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I got to give it to GW. That's some good fucking writing, because even talking about him, like, angers and tempers flare up and shit.
Yeah.
But so, I guess going on to the Great Crusade, these guys did, these guys now became the bearers of the word somehow down the line. Don't know that story, but
It was a word change, but they kept the same armor, right? Whereas like it was the gray, and it was basically the pure gray with the script on it and all that stuff.
It kept it all nice and pretty, and the
Basically,
fucking drip.
Corfarin would go on, well, I'm going to call pilgrimages, but he would go from like city to city and talking about the word. Question is this is pre-Erebus or pre-Lorgar, if I'm not mistaken. So what the word is, I guess, is whatever their faith was at the time or some shit.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was basically you had the faith of Corfaron, which was basically a minority faith, but as Corfaron raised Lorgar, and Lorgar of course became, Primarch abilities, and he was like a amazing philosopher, and he was an orator and everything else. Then he actually, and also with his visions, the faith of Corfaron was actually kind of treated Lorgar almost like a divine prophet, and kind of like changed their religious texts and everything to kind of match up with Lorgar.
Yeah.
So Lorgar definitely influenced that initial belief system. And then, of course, the Emperor shows up, and they're like, oh, the Emperor was our guy all along.
Like,
whoa.
oh, fuck. This guy was the son of the guy we've been looking at the whole time. Shit.
But so these guys were very different from other legions. Rather than just, rolling through, conquering planet after planet after planet, fucking racking up compliances, these guys would actually, like, sit and take their time. They would build temples devoted to the Emperor, shrines. They would go through all the libraries as they used to. They would burn any scrolls or books and arts and icons that would be anything that would be seen as any kind of form of blasphemy or heresy against the Emperor. These guys ended up developing, the word bearers ended up actually developing chaplains. And distributed chaplains among the legions so that they could produce works of divinity and obviously keep up the faith in the Emperor with the legions. And, certain legions would take on chaplains because, obviously they're good for morale and everything.
Right.
And then I'm assuming some were like, yeah, fuck that. I don't want a word bearer hanging out with me. Fuck you. Fuck you, nerd.
Fuck you, nerd.
But, I guess that would go on to the first big, kind of big snafu in the word bearers, because obviously, like, the Emperor was getting word about this, and he wasn't exactly happy.
Well, the main deal was not necessarily that, of course, but it was mainly like the rate of their conquest, right? We're full into Great Crusade. Everybody's doing this stuff, but the way the Great Crusade happened is they kind of divvied up different conquests and stuff like that in between the legions. Especially whenever the Emperor was in charge, he would be like, hey, Ultramarines, here's your plotted course. Take these planets, go over here, this section, take this sector, that sector, push along here to here, and conquer these planets, right? And Ultramarines and the other legions did that. And apparently the goal was not super hard to fucking get, because, like, 17 out of 18 legions got it done, right? We don't have any records of anybody else being censored for being slow as fuck. Yeah. Ward bearers, a lot of issues, and there was fucking warnings, by the way. There's like little HR meetings before what happened on Colchis.
Yeah, there were HR complaints. Yeah. There were emails sent. There were conference calls, Zoom meetings. Like
wasn't like the slowest legion to take something was what, maybe like it took them like maybe 30 days or something like that to bring a planet under compliance.
No, it could take longer.
That's what I'm saying. But with the word bearers, they were taking like months, if not years, to bring a fucking planet under compliance or something like that.
Yeah, so how the same thing will work is obviously assuming that it was a standard operation where it's like, hey, take over this planet, and also then make sure the population is like fully in compliance with the imperial truth, stuff like that. Hey, there's no gods, only man, also the Emperor, go from there. It would usually take like, at most, we're talking maybe like 6 months, something like that. Yeah. But like they did a good job. And it did take a while, but that's also 6 months after the actual conflict itself, right? So you have a conflict that rages for 6 months, then you have a 6 months follow-up period,
Unless
Stuff
you're
like
the
that.
Night Lords, then you're doing it in about a day or two.
Yeah, I don't think the Night Lords really followed up on that second part. They just said, behave or we'll be back, and they just left.
And guess
But-
what? Damn it, they behaved.
They did behave, yeah. But that being said, the word bearers, it didn't take months. They took years. Because for a lot of these guys, it was very much go in, defeat the former rulers, educate the new citizens, implement a friendly government, and fucking leave. And then say, misbehave, we'll be back. Okay? And also they left some of their guys, like the generals. We talked before about
Jugendtember.
Timber, and like they would leave like a high-ranking commander or a general or something like that over the planet to kind of what?
A planetary
Yeah,
governor.
planetary governor, exactly. And they would leave, and they would kind of let a lot of the actual building blocks on the ground, and let the planetary governor kind of build up from there, right?
Right.
So that way is a very easy compromise between us spending time here versus us making sure everything's secure before we move on.
Yeah, you got
Not the fucking word
Not
bearers.
the word bearers. Word bearers was a case of, hey, we're going to make sure every single person on this planet is not only compliant, but they are fucking radicalized for the Emperor before we leave.
Yeah.
And on top of that, at this time, we're still talking the time of Imperial truth during the Great Crusade, right? Once again, no gods, only man, follow the Emperor for humanity, right? That
Simple.
was like
Easy.
simple, easy, affordable tagline. Yeah.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
No,
That's it.
Yeah.
no gods, only man, for the emperor, for man.
Yeah. And then you have the word bearers doing way above and beyond that, but they would also introduce their religion, right? And not only did they didn't say no gods, only man, they said no gods except for the emperor. And the emperor specifically told them several times and all of his sons, I'm not a god. There are no gods. Nothing else. Stop fucking saying that. Don't fucking believe that. 17 out of 18, they got the message. Number 18, he's a little bit slow. He didn't, right? And it got to the point. You guys see the cathedral that's almost done in like Spain. And it's like this giant Catholic cathedral. That's
The one that took like 162
Yes,
years
yes,
to
that
complete
one.
or some shit.
Yeah.
That fucking basilica or what it's called.
Yeah, the same one, which by the way looks fucking holy shit.
Oh fucking
Yeah.
Christ!
No,
it
yeah,
looks like something out of Imperial, like
does,
out
yeah.
of 40K.
Yeah, it does. And we can obviously think with the tools they had during 30K, because they were leveling fucking continents for parade fields, right?
Yeah.
It would have been simple, but the word bearers with that technology were spending like 10 plus years on a planet building cathedrals and radicalizing their guys, and they were probably sending their Astartes door to door saying, "Do you go to church? Do you go to church?" They have
were
little
fucking
they have little
Jehovah's
punch
Witnesses.
cards.
Could you imagine two
Yeah.
word? Good afternoon. My name is Lorgar Aurelian, and if you have a moment, I'd like to talk to you about our Lord and Savior, the Emperor of Mankind.
Hi, I'm Brother Lorgar. I'm Brother Erebus. Do you have time for the
Do you have time to hear the good word?
fucking
the
Jehovah's
Church of
Bearers.
Latter-day Imperial Saints?
Fucking word bearers riding around with
little
the
bicycle, yeah.
white shirts and the ties on bicycles.
They're still wearing the power armor beneath the shirts. It's like the entire scene, like, the scene from Malcolm in the Middle where you got what was the dad's name? I actually have not seen Malcolm in the Middle, but what's the dad's name?
Oh my god.
But him,
Yeah.
Walter White, that guy, and he's going around and he's
Ryan-
going down the street and he's
Ryan
got the
Cranston.
line of super buff guys behind him.
Yeah.
It's like that, except it's fucking it's like an imperial iterator followed by his fucking word bearer.
Just
contingent.
word bearers.
Yeah.
But so eventually this leads to Monarchia.
Yeah. Once
And-
again, a lot of HR complaints. Emperor didn't like. No bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it finally got time for a write-up.
Yeah.
In the most extreme fucking way.
It was a final fucking warning. He said, "Fuck no."
I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, when Big E has given you multiple warnings, you got to think at some point that belt's coming off.
So they're so what was it? They're sitting there and they're doing their whole compliance thing, and all of a sudden, like, wasn't it like Rabute shows up?
Yep.
Well, here's the deal. They were all told, for the context, when they were going out and conquering planets, and obviously we're talking about like 10 plus years on a fucking planet, stuff like that. It's not like the entire Word Bearer Legion was focused on one planet. They obviously had different, crusade fleets, stuff like that. Most of the time, in any legion, you're separated from a very hefty amount of your legion because you're off doing in different crusade fleets, stuff like
Right.
that. They summoned every single word bearer, every single fucking one from every single fleet, no matter the role. Every single one went back to Colchis, okay? Specifically to the city of Monarchia, okay? every single, let's grasp that first. Let's like grasp that for a second. 100,000 Marines spread out over was probably thousands of different Crusade fleets at different points in the galaxy. And aside from maybe like one or two fell through the cracks, because there's always going to be one or two fell through the cracks.
Right.
Every single one of them
Got
met
called
up at
back.
a single fucking city.
Got called back for a fucking HR meeting.
Yes. And they did not know why. They just knew we got orders from the Emperor to be here. You guys ever been in a situation, if you guys remember, maybe like at your work and you get an email from HR being like, meet us here this time. And you're like, oh, God.
No,
or maybe when you're a
but
kid and your
You
parents said your full
you start
name.
like running through your mind,
Yes.
like, what did I say? What did I say? What did I say? What did
Yeah.
I say? What did I say?
A perfect example was being in the military and somebody got arrested because of either drunk driving or something. And you get that call from your team leader. He's like, hey, get your ACUs on, get your uniform on, and go meet up here.
Yep.
It's like 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday. You're like, oh fuck.
Hey bro, Chief. Hey bro, Chief said to get you. Chief said to get your fucking your NWUs on and meet
Yeah.
us. It's a fucking like Saturday. It's like
Yep.
a Saturday fucking morning,
It's
crisp.
like Saturday, 2:00 in the morning.
You're like rolling over in bed thinking about like all the fun you're gonna have on your weekend. And you get that phone call. Hey man, Chief wants us to meet at the security building 2:00 in
Yep.
full NWU. He said make sure you have your full battle rattle too.
Yep.
And this is where we will
Yeah.
also introduce a character called
Bring the
Argyle.
guide on. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. This is terrible. Fuck.
Oh no, who did what?
Oh, somebody's fucked up.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
where we also have to introduce a character called Argyle. Okay,
Oh,
and he will
yes,
be
the
very
man.
My
relevant.
fucking man.
My man.
the man.
You can hate word bearers. You can't hate Argyle.
You can never hate Argyle.
And this world, I'm gonna say, like, again, I want to like the word bearers. Also because Argyle has kind of shown like you can have bad, evil word bearers that you fucking love. But obviously doing this, as soon as they land and the last ship lands, they're all looking around saying, they're talking to each other saying, what the fuck's gonna happen? What the fuck's gonna happen? Oh god, oh god. And they're all basically sorted up and lined up and everything else. And a hunt. Now, granted, they're one of the legions that probably had less than 100K. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. But that being said, they were all lined up. Imagine being at fucking parade rest with essentially probably a little bit less than 100,000 men.
I've been there. I mean, not with 100,000 men, but 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine that like 1,000 times.
Yeah, just like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I've been at parade rest in trouble.
Yeah. You're like, oh shit.
Been
And
there, done that.
Suddenly,
Yeah.
and suddenly before them, and of course Lorgar's at the head, and of course Corferon's by him, and also Erebus is kind of nearby, as well as Argyle. And next thing you know, you see fucking Malcador and Blueberry Man Smith will fucking walk up.
Oh wait, let's bring him out. Get him out!
Man.
And Malcador is not fucking happy being dragged like halfway across the fucking galaxy for a goddamn HR meeting in any capacity.
Yeah.
Don't you guys know I have assassins and shit to deal with?
Yes. But at that point,
Took me away from my brand new limited edition blueberry zins.
no, before he spoke, he popped in his Zen. This is confirmed, by the way. I was there. Don't ask about it. But
Source, trust me, bro.
yeah, source, trust me, bro. But at that point, he starts fucking berating the word bearers, and I do mean fucking berating.
Yeah, Gilliman starts going. It was Gilliman, wasn't it?
No, Gilliman was silent.
Yeah.
Like honestly, Gilliman was entirely silent. But the entire thing was they were outside of Monarchia. They were looking at Monarchia, and Malcador, while he was basically roasting them, said, "As punishment, your prize city on your homeworld is going to be fucking destroyed." Now, here's the deal, and this is also important to understand. Malcador did not tell them all the civilians are evacuated. The Ultramarines and that contingent that came with Gilliman evacuated all the civilians they could. And they were actually, if you read the book, The First Heretic, they were actually decently doing a good job of, they were saying, no, we actually want you to leave. They weren't trying to hurt anybody. They said, we generally want you to fucking leave. Like, they were trying fucking multiple times. If they saw anybody, it's got to the point where, like, they'd be trying to forcibly get them out of the city.
Get the fuck out. City's gonna blow.
Yeah.
You forgot one thing.
What?
While he's berating fucking Lorgar gets pissed off and slaps.
Oh, I was getting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because
But if you want to, go ahead and say that. That's good.
That was a guy.
Yeah.
Bro, when I heard that, I was like, oh, you
Oh,
deserve
shit.
every fucking bit of what's about to happen.
Take
to
us
you.
through it. Take us through it.
So, again, Malcador's berating the shit out of him. telling him, you know, we've told you already several times to fucking stop this worshiping bullshit, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Lorgar gets pissed. He's like, how do you, effectively to summarize what he said, and it's like, you're telling me not to worship my dad as a god, but then again, he's over here doing godly shit. And it's like, what the fuck do you want? Like, you're telling me that he's not something that I can clearly see that he is, right? And for you, old man, to fucking, he literally calls him, I think, old man or something like that. He's
Bro,
like,
I can, and the funny part is I can see like Malcador while he's doing this, like leaning up on his cane, wagging his his old crooked finger at him, like, let me tell you about the bitch you are, you old whippersnapper.
Yeah, and Lorgar is there. He's like, and for you, old man, to come here and tell me that I need to stop this bullshit, this, and that. I don't even know who the fuck you are. And he just like fucking backhands the shit out of Malcador, sends him flying like fucking 5 or 6 feet. Right? Gilliman is there. He fucking Gilliman gets up. Gilliman also has a squad of Marines with him and shit. And they all like, what the fuck? Like they're about to open up fire on this motherfucker. See, he just hit Malcador, right? Malcador gets up
like a pretzel with my mind.
Gilliman asks him like, hey, do you want me to take care of him for this pussy? He's like, no, I got him, this is that. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think Big E out of nowhere fucking just just gives him the fucking, makes the entire legion fucking kneel. Like he basically force pushes them down onto their fucking knees, and then he tells Lorgar right there, he's basically, Big E is there. Big E is up on the ship. He was there the whole fucking time. He's up on Gilliman's ship, just like, hey, fucking
go figure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was gonna be there
from orbit, making an entire legion forcibly kneel.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Like you said, 100,000 dudes made to be on their fucking knees.
While psychically hitting them with the whole fucking, with like the psychic scream of just the word kneel.
Yeah. And then that's when he tells Lorgar, he's like, you've been warned several times. What's going to happen to you is more than deserved. And then that's when he fucking, all they see is a blinding fucking light. Like blinding light. Hit Monarchia, and all of a sudden Monarchia is not there anymore. Monarchia stops being a thing. And the light was so bright that one of the women who were escaping there, I think she was a maid or something like that.
Good time to bring her up.
Yes,
because she is
a new addition to the cast.
Yes.
Yes.
I forget her name, but
Cyrene.
Yes. She happens to look back. It's the typical biblical Sodom and Gomorrah destruction where God's like, hey, don't look back or you'll be turned into a pillar of salt.
Actually, literally, because the Ultramarine said it's gonna be a big light. Don't fucking look back.
Exactly.
Don't look at
What
the
does
city.
she do? She looks back and immediately her retinas are burned and she is completely blind.
Yep.
She is completely fucking blind. She can't see shit anymore because that's how bright it cooked her fucking corneas.
Yes, and we'll delve more into that after this. But at that point,
oh, she's such an important character.
she is, and she's still hypothetically at least around. So yeah,
yes,
not confirmed, hypothetically, but I it's got to be her.
It's
got to
be
100%.
But anywho, we'll get into that because
later.
so Monarchia happens, and this is where
They didn't just raise Monarchia that day. That's almost like the start of the fucking heresy.
Yeah.
Was that action?
So at this point, Lorgar starts having doubts because obviously a kind and just God of the Emperor wouldn't do that to someone who is such a devout follower. So obviously, if he's gonna be that way, he can't be a real fucking god.
Well, he never said. What's one of the interesting things? The word bearers and specifically like Lorgar never said the Emperor wasn't a god. They just said he was no longer worthy of their worship.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing to think about.
And it's funny, had he been left,
I'm going to find a new religion.
Yes.
It was at that point that Lorgar actually kind of got the message, like, fuck, okay, maybe Dad's right, maybe he's not a god. He just destroyed my entire fucking city like a god, but maybe he's not a god. Now, had he kept that same shit and the Erebus not intervened, Lorgar might have been all right. He would have been pissy with Daddy, but I don't think he would have gone full fucking chaos.
At the very least, it would have made like Erebus's job a lot harder. Because at this point, by the way, Erebus had already fallen fully to chaos. Okay, he has fully worshipping / trying to be the master of chaos. He's gone on to several trips to the Eye of Terror, which is actually what this leads directly into.
I think it's also worthy to mention that the entire time this has been going on, Lorgar's been writing a book.
Yep.
Lorgar has been steadily writing what is referred to as the Book of Lorgar.
Right.
Originally starting out, it was texts of, you know, how the emperor was a god and how to worship the emperor and different divine texts. However, there were 3 different versions of this book. There were 3 different versions of this book. Sorry, I have it's my little mechadendrite arm. I don't know. Sometimes I keep it like
it's hard to get it up sometimes. I
know.
it's
Sometimes that's why that's why it's a good time to mention our sponsor, Blue Chew. When you have trouble keeping it up, and trust Blue Chew. I'm just
You're not
kidding.
even drinking. You got whiskey dick.
I wish we
goddamn.
had sponsors by Blue Chew. That'd be cool.
He's got weed dick. That's what it
having
is.
having free boner pills all the time.
All right, but before we forget,
Check out Servo Printer on Etsy. It's our good friend Argonis. He makes these
Motherfucking
awesome
Argonis!
fucking stickers,
Woo!
right? Makes awesome stickers. You can get them holographic. You can get them in matte. Okay. I have some holographic ones. I gave some to Groot. They're freaking awesome as hell. They're all hand painted with watercolors and everything like that. Like phenomenal art pieces. If you use the code The Serpent's Lodge at his store, you'll get 10% off your order. That is dope because you can get a shit ton of stickers for relatively
they're really
like,
nice
less.
stickers.
Yeah, they're really good. Step Bro said he was gonna skip out on it because
Fuck off.
He likes
He said he read
but-
the synopsis on the stickers.
No, but yeah, definitely check out our good friend Argonis Servo Printer out on Etsy and use the code Serpent's Lodge to get 10% off your order.
Yeah, show him some love. Everybody loves some good stickers. Show him some love.
Yeah, he's some great. And
Get your favorite Legion. Fucking show. Put them on your fucking
Yeah, and
mini
when
case.
you buy them, join the Discord. Fucking post an image and fucking tag Argonis or
Yeah,
us or anybody.
tag him. Let him know
Yeah.
you bought some stickers. Show him some love. Argonis is an awesome dude in our Discord.
I bought like 15
so
fucking
talented.
stickers. Yeah, I bought 10 World Eaters and 5 Alpha Legion, and I've put those on my toolbox at work. I've put them on my laptop here.
I put them on my work binder.
He's got them
Hell
on
yeah.
his binder, and they're fantastic. They're phenomenal. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
So after this happens, I guess next we go to the pilgrimage of Cadia.
Yeah, pilgrimage to Cadia. Now the biggest thing to note after this, custodies. You have like, what was it, like 2 or 3 custodies? No, it was more than that, wasn't it?
I feel like it was.
Oh no, he there were at least 5 custodians.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
there
it
was
was
like
like
5. I feel like it
Yeah.
was like a full squad of custodians.
Yeah,
like
you had to get the right
Yeah.
point equivalency for Lorgar on the tabletop. But
Yeah.
So long story short, at that point, Malgador / the Emperor kind of left some custodies with Lorgar to kind of be like the mall cop standing around, where like you're less likely to steal or do dumb decisions if you see a cop there.
Right.
That's kind of like their role with Lorgar, right? It almost wasn't as much because even if Lorgar is like the weakest Primarch, he could probably handle 5 custodies pretty.
Oh yeah,
pretty
yeah.
handily.
There's only
Yeah.
the Primarchs are really the only thing that can kill custodies.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
effectively.
Mhm.
So
I think it's also good to mention that Cyrene actually during this time gets almost elevated to kind of like almost like a religious kind of figure. She's now referred to as the Blessed Lady. Wasn't she getting like, I mean, she was pretty much just kind of like a confession type person
yeah.
for the most part, wasn't she?
was
It's been
basically
forever since I read the first Heretic.
Yeah, she was basically instituted as kind of like a morale booster for the troops.
You
They
could almost
came to
think
her
like
with her problem.
you could
with their
almost
problems.
You could almost think it's like an unwilling Joan d'Arc, except she wasn't anywhere near combat in any capacity. It was very much like she had no. It's not like she came out and was like, "I'm gonna be a prophetess" type
Well,
deal.
I mean, yeah, that's about the
Yeah.
equivalent to us dropping Stevie Wonder in fucking Iraq with a fucking
Yeah. Fair
Yeah,
enough
she
on that.
was mainly like a confessional booth for the troops, for the other Astartes, and they would come to her with their problems, or if they just wanted to get something off their chest that they didn't want to tell anybody else. She was the one she was basically their confidant when it comes to that.
right.
She was really, really well. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
Revered?
her and Argol Tall were like really good
Close.
friends. Yeah, they
Yeah.
were they were very close. Not like relationship status, but like brother and sister almost type of.
Story is so.
Yes, bro.
So, yeah, he confided in her a lot.
Yeah.
F's in the chat for the for that story.
Yeah.
But so they start making their way towards Cadia before it becomes, non-existent.
Cadia before it becomes empty.
Yeah, Cadia before it becomes nothing. So they make their way towards Cadia, and as they're making their way there, Argoltal starts noticing that shit's kind of getting weird. It hasn't gone full shit hasn't gone like full tilt chaos, but shit's kind of people are acting kind of odd at this point, especially like Erebus. Erebus and Corphaeron are kind of like a little bit more standoffish. They're a little bit off doing their own thing.
And they wouldn't let anyone go see Lorgar at all.
No, they had Lorgar pretty much in isolation while they were chanting and talking and doing his thing.
Yeah.
And then they eventually make it to Cadia, and everybody knows the big thing about Cadia is obviously there's a big ass fucking Eye of Terror right there,
Yeah,
named by good old Perturabo.
and also that Cadia stands.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this time it stood for chaos. Yeah, but so fun fact, they meet sort of jokingly. We can call them the Proto-Cadians, even though they are Cadians, but it was obviously before Cadia was Cadia.
Yeah.
It was the classic purple eyes. So for those who don't know, Cadians are identified by having purple eyes because they're so close to the Eye of Terror. It is considered to be warp exposure, but at this time, whenever they kind of went there in 30K, they were basically almost like savages. so
Yeah,
to
they were
say.
basically
Yeah.
like a giant fucking chaos cult.
Yeah, it was a giant chaos cult that basically worshipped chaos, and that's also one of the main ways that Erebus went to. And he kind of found out about chaos and, I say, explored the deeps through Cadia and being so close to the Eye of Terror, possibly even ventured into the Eye of Terror, but that's not confirmed. So
I thought him and Argoltal went into the Eye of Terror.
I don't
That
think it
was-
was the Eye of Terror. It was
that was later on that Argoltal went into the Eye of Terror. Like, that was after the whole Cadia thing.
Was it?
Yeah, because on Cadia, they went. It was, who was it? I believe Horus was there. No, Lorgar was there. Erebus was there. Corphaeron, and then Argoltal and a couple other guys were there, along with the Custodes. When the Custodes, they were all doing some kind of heretic ritual or some shit like
Yeah,
that.
the Custodians were like, what
no,
the fuck is
yeah,
this?
And while the Custodes were like, no, we're about to go fuck some shit up, they get ambushed by, they got ambushed, I think, by Lorgar and something like that. And a couple of them, actually all of them, ended up getting killed.
Yeah.
And Argoltal was actually kind of close friends with one of the Custodes because he respected the guy and the guy respected him.
They were actually like having conversations and like
Yeah, they
actually
were-
talking and everything.
They were kind of like friends and
Right.
stuff, or at least acquaintances.
yeah. They had formed at least some kind of bond.
Yeah, and that during that ritual, there was something that was blocking the communications of not only the Custodes, but it was also blocking their teleportation. So they couldn't get a message out. They couldn't get anybody come in. They couldn't even teleport themselves out. And it ended up
no.
causing them to get completely wiped out. And then it was after that ritual that they were talking about going on an expedition into the Eye of Terror, and that's where Lorgar was sending Argoltal and like 4 or 5 other dudes in a ship that went into.
He sent Argoltal and the Galvorback.
Well, this was
wasn't-
before they became the Galvorback.
Well, yeah,
But, yeah, he sent them
but he
all in
sent
there.
the Galvorback.
Yeah, during this
essentially.
time, it was during that ritual that something possessed Argoltal. Something got into Argoltal, and it was kind of fucking with him. Every once in a while, he was just like, there's something like talking to me, whatever, but none of that shit. It was when he went into the Eye of Terror and then came out. He said that he was there for a bit. I think he said the time frame was like 6 months, but in reality, they were only in there for like 7 minutes. So when it comes,
it was like a big fucking difference in time.
Yeah.
He had been in there. Yeah.
And it was
the shit
important
went
to
in.
know. It's kind of like the ritual is kind of like the initial testing pot of
Yeah.
like get the possessed, get the spirit acquainted, I guess say.
Yeah.
And then you can travel into the Eye of Terror with your void shields on and stuff like that, relatively unaffected. The Penitent Crusades and the Eye of Terror do that decently routinely, right?
Yeah.
So they aren't instantly killed. They go into the Eye of Terror, instantly void shields go fucking down thanks to
Somebody sabotages the void
Thanks to
shield, and then
Erebus
turns up-
fucking everything up.
God damn it.
Yep, they somebody in there lowers the void shields, just completely.
Who could it be?
And
I don't
yeah,
know.
they all demons of the warp start infesting.
Can we give
the
Erebus
ship.
like a fucking a comic villain
Yeah,
twirly
I'm down for
mustache?
that,
Yeah.
Because I feel they'll never suspect it's me.
Yeah.
I'll get you again, He-Man. Yeah.
So they're in the Eye of Terror. They're getting all fucked up. These demons are all over the place, killing the crew, killing everybody. The Astartes on there, we're all getting fucking wiped. Then Argoltal is the last one kind of standing, and he meets his demon, and his demon apparently puts him into like a bear hug and is slowly just squeezing the life out of him until it finally kills him.
Jesus.
But then Argoltal wakes up. So when he wakes up, he thinks that whole thing's a dream. He's looking around for the other members of his squad. He finds other members of his squad. They end up getting out of the Eye of Terror, and that's when they're like, hey, what happened? Everything okay? The ship comes out looking busted up, like really fucked up.
All the mortal crew was destroyed except for these Astartes. Some of
for
these
the
surviving Astartes on board.
Yeah. They come out, and Lorgar's like, hey, what happened? You guys okay? And they're like, oh, we were there for 6 months. We were trying to get out. Why didn't you come and like help us or anything? Like, what are you talking about? You were only gone for like 10 minutes. Like, you went in and came back out. Like, you weren't even gone for that long. What are you talking about? And they're like,
10 minutes? No, we've been gone forever.
Yeah. Like, we don't know what's going on. This and that. So he comes back finally. And that's when you see that the possession has really taken over Argoltal. And that's when Lorgar names him and the other guys that were with him to Galvorback. And that's where the story gets even more interesting, because now Argoltal is fighting this demon inside of him that is slowly but surely just taking over.
It's also important to note that during this time, they initially don't know what to think in regards to the entirety of the Galvorback. And also the Galvorback themselves, possessed Space Marines would be a very, very commonly used tactic among the word bearers later on.
Yeah.
The Galvorback were much more powerful than regular possessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking like next level demonhood whenever it comes to the power of these Marines with what they did. But we get to see more of this later on, so I won't go too far into it. But they can appear as regular Astartes in like full human form, but when it comes time for war and everything else, and them and basically their inhabited demon are of one mind, they
It's
basically
like-
do a full
Yeah, it's
Q
like a
Isstvan V.
yeah.
yeah. Essentially, that's well, I have now fucking Lorgar has the epiphany. Oh, the Dark Pantheon, the Chaos Gods. These must be the gods that are worthy of my worship. Look at what they've done. Look at how powerful and special they've made you.
Isstvan V, we need to go and also talk about something else, and that's going to be the lodges inspired by the
Yes.
Serpent Lodge on
Yes.
Davin.
Yep.
Whoa.
This is
Roll
where
credits.
Erebus begins
Yeah.
his campaign of going through different, Erebus and Corferin both, hopping from legion ship to legion ship, like different legions, and instituting these lodges where it's
Well,
like,
didn't they have chaplains doing that?
was-
That
yeah,
was the
so
job
we
of the chaplains.
They
But
had
also,
chaplains.
yeah, they were also doing it. But one of the big things was that they had the chaplains, as well as, of course, Corfair and Erebus were doing that. Some of themselves, specifically also Erebus with Horus.
yeah,
They would second a lot of their chaplains and sometimes like regular Marines into the other legions under the premise of, hey, we're just here to kind of like learn more about your legion, have like political cooperation between ourselves, and also like we
After
teach
Dad
you a little
whooped our
bit. You
asses.
learn a little bit of something else. And the one thing they implemented was the warrior lodges. The warrior lodges, and I forget if we talked about this some before, but we'll recap it for this episode too. was the idea that after battle, the Astartes, no matter what your rank is or anything else, could attend this lodge if you are a member, and you can talk among equals, right? So if you had the fresh recruit and you had a grizzled veteran, when they're in the lodge discussing stuff, then in that case, they were equals, right? And that was kind of the appeal. Yeah, that
Rank did not matter.
Yeah, it did not matter. That was the appeal. Among the vast majority of the legions, some variation of this took hold. Now, some of the legions didn't really kick off on. I don't believe we have any real notice among like the Space Wolves or Imperial Fists, or even the Ultramarines.
Not really.
No, not
From
even
what I
Alpha
know,
Legion.
like they had a version of it, but theirs was. I mean, that was pretty much the norm for Space Wolves, anyways. Was basically everybody's equal. Everybody has a voice. We all drink. We all talk.
Word bearers kind of show up and like, oh, would you like to be part of this very cool society? Like, oh, we already got that.
We already do that. Go away, nerd.
Oh, this is different.
It's different. Go the fuck away. We don't like you.
Yeah, but it took like especially strong hold among the Sons of Horus, Lunar Wolf Sons of Horus, as well as like the White Scars.
Yeah.
Those are like, if I had to say like the top 2 legions, also the Iron Warriors, but to a lesser extent.
Yeah, mainly the loyalist legions, because when it came to the traitor what would come to the traitor legions, you didn't really have that too much.
Emperor's Children, you did.
Emperor's Children, you did.
What
Iron
was it?
Warriors,
Death Guard.
you did
It was
kind of.
Death Guard. It was discussed a little bit.
Right. And when
World
it came World Eaters, no, because
No, they had the
were all,
gladiator pits.
yeah, they all had the fucking butcher's nails, and at that point, the gladiator pits was their
Outlet.
equal.
Yeah.
And truth be told, we may never know the actual extent of this, right? We can probably safely assume it was in every legion, but to what degree and what influence?
But Erebus could have influenced that into its own form of warrior lodge, because Erebus was a known fighter in the gladiator
Right.
pits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Alpha Legion, we don't really know, but Alpha
Good luck
Legion
with
already, everybody in the Alpha Legion was already equal for the most part.
I feel like
they all had to
I
be
feel like if
Alpha Aries.
Perturabo found anybody speaking as equals, they'd be fucking bitch smacked across.
No, I mean, I'm mainly
Nobody
thinking-
speaks as equals
I wanna
around
say-
me.
I want to say it was Angel. I could be wrong, but I want to say it was Angel Exterminatus, where there was mentions. They actually attended like a little lodge thing, and now obviously it wasn't specifically like a warrior lodge. They had their own thing, but Perturabo was aware of it and actually walked in. Remember? 'Cause that was whenever the guy who was the guy walked in. They were discussing. It's like, we're all equals here. It's all good. It was very clearly a warrior lodge. But then Perturabo, and they were playing like war games of like basically they're playing Warhammer.
Because they were on the Hololith
Yes.
playing war games against each other,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Do you think?" He was like,
then
"You're all
Perturabo.
equal." He was like, "Do you think you're my equal?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Does anybody challenge me?"
Yeah. So I was gonna say it existed in the Iron Warriors, existed everywhere else. The main thing is to kind of be a corrupting influence. So
Right.
we can see this specifically in the White Scars, when they finally found out stuff kicked off. They had an entire civil war where basically the traitors were kind of led by the lodges, because they were saying, "Hey, we want to side with Horus, right? And let's do this thing real quick." And it was basically a civil war in the White Scars. Go see the White Scars episode. So that was kind of the intent, and it worked really fucking well, like really, really fucking well. So take
Look at
notes,
that.
Alpha Legion.
Erebus fucking things up again.
Fucking hell.
Leave it to Erebus
me.
fucking things up. So next we go to Isstvan V, and I feel like we have touched on Isstvan V enough that we
Yeah.
don't have to know. We really don't have to note a whole lot. The only real thing that happened,
Is the transformation of the Galvor back for the first time.
Yes.
there was that. There was
The Iron Warrior bit.
the Iron
Yeah,
Warriors
yeah,
fight.
can't forget
Yeah, have faith. Have faith, word bearers. So
And Lorgar almost died.
yeah, and
Yes.
Lorgar
Yeah.
almost gets his shit kicked in by
Corax.
Corvus Corax.
Yeah.
Literally the only W that Corax gets.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty
Corax was manhandling this mother. Like, it's for being a Primarch, you see how much of a bitch Lorgar is compared to his brothers.
If it wasn't for fucking Kurz,
Yes,
because
yeah.
Kurz came in and absolutely terrified
Yes.
the fuck out of.
Yeah.
It was like it went from like almost W to instant L.
Yeah, Kurz was he got a good few hits on fucking Corax and fucked his world up. Like,
'Cause-
it even destroyed one of his jets.
Ooh, lightning
jet.
claws
Yeah.
versus lightning claws.
Yeah.
Let's see
Oh,
who
baby.
fucking wins.
Corax is like, Nah,
nah,
you,
fam.
dude.
Nah,
Nah,
motherfucker.
you're a
Yeah.
fucking psycho. Fuck this.
But let's go through them one at a time. So the first thing is obviously stuff happened. They was like, hey, Loyalists, we found the traitors here, yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
And then suddenly, Iron Warriors show up, Word Bearers show up, yada yada. At that point, while the fighting continues, the Iron Warriors let loose, and despite them supposed to be targeting the last loose pockets of like Salamanders, Raven Guard, Iron Warrior, or Iron Hands, the vast majority of the shells hit the fucking like Word Bearers and Nine Lords and shit like that. And eventually, it was just the funniest. It was like the best Iron Warrior moment because you had Nine Lords, Word Bearers, whatever other fucking traitor legion they were hitting, by the way, just voxing them in, saying wrong fucking coordinates, what the fuck you doing? Probably a whole bunch of cursing, and just the only reply you get from the goddamn Iron Warriors is just a response to a Word Bearers captain was like, "Have faith, Word Bearers," and then chuckling and hanging up.
Just straight
Friendly fire.
click.
Yeah, like just straight up no shit's given friendly fire. But also that kind of serves a deeper meaning because that's the first time you see the cracks show. And it's a very small incident, but that's the first crack that shows in the traitor forces of them fucking hating each other as much as they hate the loyalist.
And it's so funny to see, like, it's in the beginning, like in the very beginning.
Literally in the first battle.
Yeah, the cracks are already there.
Yep.
So the second one is obviously, well, we already talked about Lorgar getting his shit kicked in.
Yeah, we already talked about
fucking Corvus finds him, fucking runs off, and then we have the Gal Vorback, and I'll let you hit on that one.
So this was a pivotal moment for the traitor legions right there, is because at this point they're all fighting. The Gal Vorback are fighting like normal humans, whatever, and at some point the demon finally takes over completely of Argotol, right? And he starts mutating along with the rest of the Gal Vorback too. It's like the demon was waiting for this fight to wear down Argotol enough to be able to fucking just take him over, and the rest of the Gal Vorback. They all start mutating. Freaking Argotol if I remember correctly, the description shows that he started growing hooves, and his legs started growing a weird joint on the back of it, almost like a hind leg of a
almost like a
bull or a goat or something like that. He started getting the face of what I could assume was like a goat, and became a hulking just fucking monster. So
and he got wings.
And he grew wings, and the rest of the Gal Vorback were basically the same. And everyone on the battlefield just fucking stopped for a goddamn second and watched these motherfuckers just go ham-fisted on everything. They were just killing the shit out of all the loyalists that they could get their hands on. And it's about that time, because this is around the time that Ferrus Manus got his head cut off and shit, and Vulcan just disappeared.
Shit, we're losing.
Yeah,
No.
that everyone starts breaking ranks and fucking just hauling ass. World Eaters are chasing them, and while the
traitors.
while the traitors are
Decisive,
around, finishing off the last little bit of guys, whatever, Sevatar sees Argotol and the Gal Vorback and all them. And who was it that came up to talk to him? Somebody came up to talk to him. I think it was either Lorgar or Erebus or even Argotol himself after they changed back. And he basically was like, "Oh, thanks for the help. We did this and that." Sevatar looks at him, spits on the ground, and it's like, "I don't want anything to do with you guys."
Basically calls him a beast from that point.
Yeah, he's like, "You're a beast and abomination. I want nothing to do with you." And he turns around and walks the fuck away.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
I see that he was honestly disgusted, which
was.
is a wild thing to see because you were talking like
A Night Lord.
A Night
Lord, like the Nine Lord, going around and seeing what the fuck happened with the Word Bearers and all this stuff, and just spitting on the ground level disgust.
And he actually continues with this because there's a couple other incidents where where they're together him and Sevatar are in the same place, and it's literally the same reaction every time. He's like, "Oh, are you gonna transform for us?" It's a constant, almost like goading from Sevatar. He's like, "Oh, are you gonna transform for us, beast?" While he's regular, and he like starts kind of splitting.
Yeah.
And he like controls it, and he's like, "Come on, I'll destroy you. Please transform. I'll fucking kill you myself."
I'm not gonna lie, my bet is on Sevatar.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I will always love fucking. I
So-
will always fucking love.
So
fucking
Isstvan V happens, and obviously Trader W for Isstvan 3 and Isstvan 5. We end
Big
up
time.
we cleanse our own legions of the loyalists, and then we cleanse out some we cleanse out thin the ranks of the loyalist legions.
and even those who might be on the fence.
Right. So then Horus hits Lorgar with, "All right, I need you to go take care of Gilliman. Gilliman is my next big problem."
And take your retarded cousin with you.
Yeah, and take your retarded cousin.
Take your autistic brother with you.
This is something we did it. Just so I want to clarify real quick, because we're about to come up on this, and this is a little bit relevant. Is Lorgar is really good friends with Magnus, okay? And in fact, to the point where, like, Magnus several times, whenever that stuff was happening with 1,000 Suns and Prospero, he was thinking back to a conversation he had with
Lorgar.
many times with Lorgar and stuff like that. They were kind of close. And one of the first things that happens before they go into this, which also we need to mention the Abyss, is also Lorgar continues to talk with fucking Magnus.
Oh, I guess you should talk kind of about the Abyss, because I skipped that one.
You skipped that.
Honestly,
book?
no, it's worth.
I skipped Battle for the Abyss.
It's
No,
worth skipping. It's not a good book.
It's all right. It's a pretty good book.
6
especially-
hours.
It's
of
irrelevant.
Mortarborn. I mean,
It's
yes
a-
and no.
It's irrelevant to the overall story.
No,
Well, no,
even in
not
the small
really,
story, it's irrelevant. I gotta be honest. Like, the only relevant thing that happens is finding out where Gortrod is. That's the only
Is
relevant
that the
thing.
one that the? No, that's not the one that you have the Space Wolf, the Ultramarine.
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
the
that is
yeah,
there.
yeah. The kill
Yeah.
team,
Okay.
the kill team that shows up trying to kill the ship
Yeah.
and then trying to destroy the ship, and then behold, there's 3 more ships.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the overall story, it actually
Looks like
it
Team
is actually
Erebus is
kind of
blasting
relevant.
off again.
Before that.
Yeah.
One of the big things about this is, let's set the stage for this. We're now going into the battle for Ultramar, right?
Right.
Because at this point, reminder, Ultramarines are the largest legion, bar none. They presumably absorbed one, if not both, of the 2nd and 11th Legion. Their numbers, the average Astartes Legion was 100,000. Ultramarines, 250. 200, quarter of a million Astartes on standby, not including recruits or anything else. There's no fucking cap, man. These guys could have easily
Dead
give them like another 100 years. They
Dead
could
ass,
cross
no
half
cap.
a mil. But his entire
Straight,
plan was
not
saying,
Ohio fam.
his entire
No,
plan
for
was
real.
not to say we're gonna wipe out
They
the
paid the Phantom
Ultramarines.
tax.
Oh God,
He knew it's like, we're not gonna wipe
real,
out
for
the
real.
Ultramarines. What we're gonna do is we're gonna basically cordon them
skibbity
off.
toilet.
Shut the fuck up.
Skibbity bootay.
But he's like, hey, we're gonna cordon them off. And at this point, the armor has been we forgot the armor change.
Oh,
After Monarchia, they changed their armor from like the gray stuff to the red and the
We
red
forgot to
crimson.
mention also that fucking Cyrene got fucking.
yep. During the entire pilgrimage to Cadia, Cyrene got killed. Argotal did not like this.
Argotal did not like this at
Yeah,
all.
you're right.
Yeah, because
Yep.
remember there were custodies left on the ship, and they are the ones that
Yes.
killed her. And fucking
Yeah, they were running fucking. They were running wild through the damn ship, just murdering everybody, right?
And
The
yeah,
custodies.
and
Good
so
for them.
Argotal comes back, finds out that Cyrene has been killed, transforms back into his demon form because
Yeah.
he's fucking hit a like rage point. Ends up fucking like killing the custodies that are on the ship that have killed the rest of the custodies on the ship, and then ends up taking one of the fucking custodians' fucking guardian lances broken in half and uses it as his weapon from now on.
Yeah. I can't believe I forgot about that shit because that whole section was fucking. It was
And-
wild as
Insane,
fuck.
yeah.
Which is a big thing because guardian spears are gene coded to the custodian that they're meant for,
Yeah.
and they're like the big thing is
But it's gene coded down at the hilt where you would have it, where you would hold it where the trigger is for the bolter on there, but because it was split in half, it was
he had it
basically-
he had it split to where it could still activate, but he had the fucking
Could it still activate?
he had but because he had basically eaten the custodian.
Oh yeah.
He ate the custodian, and so he had the custodian's gene imprint, and so he could fucking activate it.
I forgot he ate the fucking custodian. That's right.
Yeah, he fucking devoured the custodian and had the custodian's blood.
Yeah, damn. I can't believe I forgot that part. That was like one of the best parts. And he's like, oh shit, he's eating this motherfucker.
Yeah,
right
I was
now.
like, oh, he ate the custodian. But so going on to the Shadow Crusade, we've kind of touched on this twice with fucking
World Eaters,
Ultramarines.
Right.
We've kind of seen both sides of it. The big thing was Lorgar's plan was to open up a ruin storm, to open up a big ass warp storm because of the Symphony of Chaos and blah 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 and all this bullshit that he was
I'll
talking
insert a
about.
clip somewhere in here. Yeah.
To cut Ultramar off from the rest of the Imperium.
Yeah, basically, if I can cut off Gilliman, I've done my job.
This kind of boils down to halfway jokingly, don't take this too seriously. Lorgar, to a degree, is the Batman of 30K. Hear me out. The entire reason is because this motherfucker pre-plans like a bitch. The entire Shadow Crusade, pre-planned. The elevation of Angron, pre-planned. The Serpent's Lodge cults, pre-planned. Like, he's got an answer for everything, and he just has prep time.
Okay.
You see it?
So who wins with prep time, Lorgar or Batman?
Is it Adam West Batman?
Yes.
Adam West.
Okay.
Next question.
I say Kevin Conroy Batman.
Who's the new one?
I don't know who the
Oh, no.
Robert Pattinson.
Robert
Robert
Pattinson.
Pattinson. No. I'm talking about Batman from the Arkham trilogy.
Robert Pattinson as Jacob Sabatarian. Do it.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
yes.
that would be good, actually.
Fucking, yeah, he's already playing a gay ass vampire. Might as well fucking play a badass one.
Type-coded vampire.
But yeah, so
But also, during this time, as he's doing that real quick, we also have, because we never fully explained, we briefly covered, we need to fully explain what the Abyss was. This was a new classification of fucking warship that he commissioned in secret from the Adeptus Mechanicus, specifically, what was it, Habor Cal? If I'm saying that correctly?
Kelbor Howe.
Kelbor Howe. Yeah, same thing. But Kelbor Howe, but these were monolithic fucking doomsday devices.
Yeah.
Okay, like a single one could very easily destroy an entire fucking world.
was the
This is why I say that entire book's irrelevant, because this motherfucker built like 4.
was the Phalanx bigger than the
Yeah, the Phalanx was a fucking floating goddamn fortress, dude.
Yeah.
It was like
Phalanx was, but at the same time, this was still impressive. 4 of these might have been able to take on one of the Phalanx. But that's not like they were small. That's like how big.
The biggest ship that at that point that the traders had was probably the Vengeful Spirit.
Yeah, any Gloriana class battleship. But just to give you context for that, reminder, in Siege of Terra, when all the trader forces were right there and everything else, Dorn kept the Phalanx as what he thought would be an escape pod for the Emperor, so the Phalanx could go through the trader's lines and escape to the Mandeville point and jump. One ship, the Phalanx, taking on literally the entire space force of every single fucking legion.
Right.
And he bet on the Phalanx. So again, it's not that these ships were small. These ships were astronomically huge. The Phalanx was just still in a league of its own.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that because I remember they weren't. It wasn't they were bigger than one of them, and I think they were bigger than the Gloriana classes.
Oh yeah, they were.
They were like something they haven't seen since the Phalanx.
Yeah.
So when you say that the Battle for the Abyss was irrelevant, not necessarily. I have to disagree with you on that.
The Abyss did show up.
It was.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Well, it kind of did.
The
It
other
did,
ones
yeah.
showed up.
The other ones
the other
mainly
two
did.
showed up.
That first Abyss was the only one that was fully operational at the time. They were still finishing up the other 3. The other 3 weren't far from being
Mr.
operational.
Primarch, there's been a second Death Star.
But that
Primarch's
first
been
one,
a 3rd Death Star.
Yeah.
Mr. Primarch, there's been a 4th. Holy shit, how many do they have?
but the one in that book was the only one that was fully operational, flying around and actually actively going towards Calth, I believe at that point.
Yeah, what's
Until
yeah.
Erebus
Yeah.
was like, "Haha, I have 2 more."
Yeah,
Well,
but that
yeah,
was
some
that was really
fuckery.
is like, hey, even if it's not like
You
technically fully operational, it's still a fucking Death Star.
No,
you know?
no, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You
taking that for
destroyed my
sure.
distraction abyss.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a distraction abyss, but that was a good read because you got to see how several dudes. You had a World Eater, you had a Space Wolf, you had an Ultramarine, and you had a Thousand Sun. All four of them, you got to see how they interact with each other, and it's a funny read. It's really entertaining the way they did it, especially with the Thousand Sun. Motep, I think was his name. That dude had me cracking up the whole fucking time, because there's one part where they find out that the traitor legions are a thing, right? So they throw Motep into a jail cell, right? So while everything is going on, Motep is in the jail cell. He's just like, whatever, being respectful, being, just a good prisoner. The two guys that were guarding his cell, like, leave. Like, they run off to go, because you have 3 other guys on the ship that are just fucking wreaking havoc everywhere, right? So they leave, and there's also a spirit around on the ship too. It's like a demon that's fucking running around. Again, when they run, Motep gets up and he's like, what's going on? Where are the guards at? And he's like, I'm gonna go find out. And he just melts the door. Like, he just dissolves the door with his fucking brain and steps outside into the hallway, and he's just like, where the hell is everybody? He just like walks. It's like, you could have left that cell the whole fucking time with no fucking problem. Like, all right. But it's one of those that in the overall arc of the story, sure, it's not really too irrelevant. It's not too relevant, but on its own, it's actually pretty entertaining.
I just would have liked it better if it felt like it had more lore impact, but also, I mean, if there's a smaller scale story or anything else.
You're also talking about a guy who skipped Flight of the Eisenstein.
God.
Listen, you will never live that up, sir. You will never live
My
that
next
up.
audible credit, I will buy it and listen to it. There we go.
I'm about to gift you an Audible credit so you can just read it now.
I'll wait to let you buy it for me.
We'll
Shit.
finish up the podcast. You just listen to the damn book.
I'll listen to it on 4 times speed. Don't worry. We'll be done by the time the podcast is done.
But yeah, so the Abyss happens. It gets destroyed. It actually gets to take out an Ultramarine ship before before it just gets fucking
Rest in
yeeted
peace.
into oblivion.
Hey, he's got a 1-to-1 KD. Let's go.
That's exactly it. He's 50-50. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Abyss. Like, it got to kill one ship. It almost got to Calth. Actually, it got to the outer skirts of the orbit of Calth.
Yeah.
And then just got blown to shit.
And that's pretty much the Shadow Crusade and Calth. Unless you want to talk more about it, we've talked a lot about it.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time over this, but I do want to say is that during this time, Lorgar was an asshole, bro. Yeah. Like, we talked about this, like,
Bro,
obviously with the
Lorgar
Ultraman
got
episode.
cocky out of nowhere.
Yeah, and to be fair, rightfully so. For context, Ultramarines, 250. Okay, 250,000. It was something like by Calth in approximately like 24, 48 hours. They lost like, what the fuck was it? Like 80 to 90,000 fucking Marines.
Oh, yeah.
Some shit like that in like 2 days.
Well, this was very personal to Lorgar, especially after the whole Monarchia. Due to the Monarchia bit, exactly.
There was a big ambush that happened on Calth, right? They had come down for, I guess, a dinner and like see how they do, and then all of a sudden it was a giant fucking just bloodbath that was happening. They got
just out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere they started murdering everybody. However, out of that came the whole reason why Ultramarines, sergeants, and everybody have red helmets now is because of Teal. Fucking that dude's a badass. However, we're talking about the turd bearers, so yeah.
Yeah, so after the Shadow Crusade, I guess it's kind of funny to mention that while this is going on, Signus Prime happens. We can refer back.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Signus Prime.
We can kind of refer back to the Blood Angels episode on that, but the big point of this was Sanguinius is a big problem. Originally Horus was like, I need to get rid of Sanguinius.
Yeah.
Sanguinius needs to die. Sanguinius is my second biggest problem.
It was like one of the first major disagreements that happened between Erebus and Horus, because when this kicked off, Erebus became Horus's like spiritual advisor, so to say.
His personal chaplain.
Yes,
and
this is what Erebus set up.
And Erebus hit him with, Oh, no, let me tell you something. Okay, let me explaining something to you, Mr. Horace.
We said Middle East, not Far East.
No. That's Canadian, bro.
It is fine. Let me explaining to you. Okay, sir. So what we are going to do is we are going to taking the Sanguinius and we're going to make him into the demon. Like we did with the Angron and the Fulgrim and the Mortarion and kind of the Magnus right now, but not really. But we are going to be making him the demon. And Horus was like, nah, I feel like if we just killed him and got rid of him, got rid of the Blood Angels, that'd be an easier...
Yeah.
Because he thought Sanguinius would never turn.
No, sir, let me telling you, if you go out and getting the 10 Google Play gift cards and you putting them on my account, I promise you we will be making him into the Demon Primarch.
He will be a demon Primarch and he will be loyal to you, at least enough for you to do what you need to do.
At least for, promise you, he so many tits and vagine. So many tits and vagine in the name of Horus because of this making him into the Demon Primarch. And so eventually he was like, you know what, Erebus, fuck it, do it, just try it. And sure enough, Erebus fucked that up.
And he's gone.
And that's how Erebus ended up with a flayed face. God, that was so funny.
That was, yeah.
But so obviously he failed at that, and I guess now we can go off to, you know, now the Horus Heresy's been going on for a while, and Lorgar kind of realizes, shit's kind of going off the rails. Shit's really not going the way that I wanted it to go. Maybe Horus wasn't the right choice for this. Maybe I'm the right choice. I'm the obviously better choice. So you know what? Fuck Horus. Fuck Horus. I've been working hard at this, and he's gonna take all the credit. No. I'm gonna take out Horus, and we're gonna do fine. So also during this time, I guess it's worthy to notice that somewhere along the lines, Zardu Layak shows up as Horus's new, like, Erebus, because Erebus has been fucking everything up.
God damn it.
Yeah, I already drank.
So Zardu Layak comes in, and Zardu Layak does not look like any word-bearer space marine that you've ever seen before. He looks like a bug.
Yeah, he's got like the different like 8 eyes on his helmet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very clearly, like, I want to say it was an observation made where it's like, I don't think he can take off his armor. I really don't. I forget who said that or what book, but somebody made an observation saying, like, I'm pretty sure him and his armor are just one at this point.
Yeah, I think it's the same with the Gal Vorback. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they can remove their armor.
Well, it
anymore.
even
They're fused
mentions
with it.
like during the Siege of Terra, like his mask like pulling into his fucking skin and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking.
Yeah.
But so Lorgar fucks off at this time to go usurp Horus and to try and get people onto his side, which of course doesn't really work out.
So he's
nobody
pulling a
likes
Lionel
Erebus.
Johnson, vote for me for War Master type shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Vote for me for the new War Master. Can I get a Lenny?
Here's a Zenachino.
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 So, while this is going on, Zardu Layak, because this is all during Slaves to Darkness, Zardu Layak gets sent to go get Fulgrim. Because Fulgrim has been off in the realm of Slaanesh doing...
Fulgrim has been gone for a long time, hasn't he?
Fulgrim's been doing, like, some TV MA not suitable for work, like
endeavors.
all kinds of bad shit. His shit has basically been like a nonstop porno for the past however long the Horus. How long was the heresy going on before?
I want to say
Was it like 7 years?
it was like 7 years overall, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So 7 years of sex.
So we'll say solid, like, because how long did the siege of the siege lasted? Roughly like 6-7 months.
Approximately.
So we'll say about 6.5 years of just debauchery. So Zardu Layak comes in and he starts, kind of halfway fighting with him. basically Fulgrim's playing with his food, and then Zardulaic hits him with, I know your true name. And he's like, everybody knows my name. My name is Fulgrim, blah, 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 blah. He's like, no, I know your true name. And he speaks it. And automatically Fulgrim goes from, all joyful, crazy snake Fulgrim. And he instantly goes from like snake Fulgrim to normal Fulgrim. And he's like instantly like cut off from Slaanesh. And he's in eternal agony. Freaks him the fuck out, and so finally Fulgrim's like, okay, fuck you, I'll go with you, fuck.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine, just give me my drugs and my sex back.
Like, shit, man.
Shit, fam, you ain't gotta be all Ohio about it.
Fucking car, we're going to rehab right fucking now.
You didn't even pay the phantom tax, bro.
God.
Fuck up.
Like, who am I? Amy Winehouse? Get the fuck out of here.
God, bro.
Tried to make me go to rehab.
Chad,
I
is this
said
real?
no. But so long story short, Horus ends up finding out about Lorgar's plan while they're all getting ready to meet at Ulanor, and Lorgar ends up basically telling, Horus ends up basically telling Lorgar like, fuck off.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm not killing you is because you're my brother. So I'm going to give you this chance to leave. Otherwise, I'm just going to flay you where you stand.
I guess we can say Lorgar was excommunicated.
Excommunicated.
Excommunicado.
Oh.
I'm noticing a trend here. He just kind of gets kicked out of whatever group
He really
he's in.
does, yeah.
He's a fucking loser.
But it's funny because now we've kind of now we've really hit the siege of Terra.
It's a good point to know. Let's summarize also what has been happening with, like, Cyrene. So, Cyrene came back. I'm literally just going to do 2-second summary, by the way.
Somehow Cyrene returned.
Yeah, somehow Cyrene returned. Came back. Argotal died during the Shadow Crusade. Rest in peace, my homie.
Yeah.
He died due to Erebus.
Due to Erebus.
Due
We
to
mentioned
Erebus.
it in the world.
Fuck
Mentioned
Erebus.
it in the World Eaters thing
Yeah.
because Karn fucking gets up.
Yeah.
Get up, get up.
Yeah.
God, I love that. Anyways, we've already used that clip. I'm not gonna use that clip again in this episode, but damn, I love that. But yeah, so at that point, so Cyrene's technically back, and she's kind of floating around, and it gets kind of complicated from there. We'll like go back at the end and kind of talk about her and what relevance she might play.
we'll talk about her at the end.
Yeah.
But what you need to know is right when the Siege of Terra happened, she's now traveling with John Grammaticus and Olanius Pius.
Yes. Sort of.
Kind of.
That's the story of that entire plot line.
She's with Pesh.
Ingo Pesh.
Yeah, she's with Ingo Pesh. She's with the Alpha Legionnaire.
Oh shit! No, you're right. You're right.
Because that's when she comes in with him because
you're
she's
right,
done
yeah.
she did the whole reading because now she's a psyker,
Mm-hmm.
and then now she finds she does the whole code on him. But we've already talked about that
Yeah.
again.
Have we?
I'm pretty sure we mentioned it on the show.
Probably at some point. Anyways, her story's not really relevant, but we're talking for the word bearers as a whole. So at this point, Siege of Terra, at this point, despite the fact that they kind of kicked off the party, a lot of the word bearer people aren't fucking there to finish it. In fact, like
not.
Lorgar's gone, Corferon's kind
Yeah,
of gone with them.
Lorgar's complete. Lorgar is exiled on a planet of like just religious priests and sorcerers and whatever. There's people there's people reading tarot cards. There's people in there inhaling doing like smoke sessions where they're just inhaling fucking like
Pass around
incense
the
smoke.
hookah, all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh shit.
There's people reading futures in the fire. They're doing all kinds of manners of divination and different kinds of stuff. And
I'm not gonna lie, it actually seemed kind of chill.
the story of this is that Erebus actually shows up during all of this.
Of course he does.
Crazy fucking does.
Erebus shows up to once again fuck everything up, except now he's fucking everything up for John Grammaticus. And isn't this where John Grammaticus ends up speaking in Nuncia?
Yeah, and and he takes down a series of the wall that buries, Cyrene / Cat, it's a long story, but basically buries the party for the most part, and also buries technically Erebus, but then Erebus technically shows up somewhere else, and that's the huge thing. But the entire time, Erebus was kind of following his own, again, we can almost call it like his own storyline. where he's now trying to go and basically hunt down John Grammaticus, Elenius Pius.
Erebus went on a side quest.
Yeah, Erebus did go on a side quest for that reason. And in fact, it's kind of interesting. It was kind of funny because in the story, as they're called, what was it called? The Oronauts or something like that? I forget the specific titles. Like, what was the group of adventurers on the Odyssey was called?
The Argonauts.
That was it, the Argonauts. But he was basically chasing down the Argonauts, as they were called. And the entire time, like, Elaine's Bias and all, they were like, we could feel it's like a wolf stalking through the void, chasing us through space and time. And it's like super menacing, and you're like, holy shit, what could this be? Because they're like, it's not like any demon we've seen before. And then finally they go face to face with this giant monster that's been built up for basically books. And it's like, oh, it's Erebus. Hi, Erebus. hey, he's just
Bro, and the funniest part is like when they're running away from him, I almost imagine it's like it's almost like where the Scooby-Doo chase scene where the music starts playing and they're running through hallways, but like they're running back and forth until they run right in front of Erebus and they're like, oh shit.
That's essentially what happened. Yeah. But that's what Erebus was doing. And long story short, I don't even want to get into that. Let's just say he did that shit, okay? But the biggest thing that happens with Erebus is at the very end. The very fucking end. And I was saying this was really fucking cool. And I like this. Okay. Maybe a hot take, but everything in this book is a hot take. At the very end, Loken and Abaddon. Oh, God damn. Obviously, this is not a spoiler-friendly channel. We love our spoilers, okay? At the end, when Horus is dead on the vengeful spirit, you have Loken and you have Abaddon. And Abaddon is basically broken. Because reminder, during the end, specifically during End of the Death, he's going around and finally questioning, kind of breaking away from Horus, saying, my father's gone insane. Now that Horus is dead, he's having to come to the realization that he's basically alone. In fact, he's having to take charge. And he's been having to take charge, but he always knew there's somebody above him, and he's like, I'll do my best. But I was like, no, he's truly alone.
This is the point where he hits like control, not controlled.
Yes, exactly.
It is like his mantra that he believes in. He believes this is and that's kind of what he holds on to like his entire time through chaos is I can control chaos, but I will not be controlled by chaos because that was the issue.
Yeah, and then Loken shows up and is talking to him, and they're just talking, despite the fact they've been on the separate sides from day one of this bloody, bloody civil war where trillions and trillions have died, going around, and Loken is actually reaching out and being graceful and saying, hey, if you want, I will explain to Dorn what happened. I will vouch for you to Dorn, to anybody. To Malcador or whoever the fuck. I forget if you said Malcador. Probably not. But
just come back. Let's be the Luna Wolves again.
Your punishment will be lenient. You can still serve the Imperium. Like, acknowledge your ways. This bad thing. He's treating it like it's the end of a civil war. And he's trying to be civil about it. And he's saying, hey, end of the day, no matter all that went through, you made a bad decision, but you are still my brother in arms. And I will be there for you. And it was such a wholesome thing.
And you are still Ezekiel Abaddon.
Yes. Yeah. And he's like, you are a man of character. I believe in you. And then here comes Erebus with the steel chair, and he fucking kills Loken like the goddamn piece of fucking shit.
There was more to that because
expound.
Because Abaddon hits him with, I've gone too far. This is the point of no return. This isn't something that I believe in. This is not something that I'm going to follow. I'm not going to kill you because I respect you as a warrior, and I see that I have bigger things to worry about. I'm going to give you the option to walk away right now. If you just leave, nobody's going to kill you. Live out your days. Do what you want. Whatever. But I'm leaving. If you stay, you can stay and come with me. You can leave and not get killed. But if you stay and you don't come with me and you resist, you're going to die. And he says, you know what? All right. And he gets ready to fucking leave. And then here you go. Now you can hit him with it. Here comes Erebus with a steel chair.
But he stabs Loken. And initially, Horus is upset. But then Erebus starts speaking. And that's where it all continues falling down. Something also is that he explains, leading back to the Ouroboros, is that through the death of Loken, such a powerful figure, a demon in the warp is given birth to, and that demon was Samus, the first demon ever introduced with name into Warhammer. I am the one behind you. I am the man in front of you. I am the man beside you.
Well, it's funny because Samus is the one that he heard when he first in the first book.
Samus is the demon directly made in the warp from Loken's death.
No shit.
Yep.
Wasn't that
Damn.
what?
It's
Wasn't
a
that what
cycle.
Erebus said too when he appeared? Was he said, "I'm the man behind you," and stabbed him?
I don't recall off the top of my head, but probably. Yeah.
Something
That sounds
theatrical
about
like
right.
that.
But also, he then proceeds to go and counsel Abaddon, right? And this is one of the biggest things where he go around. He basically says, "I will be your teacher and instructor." But this leads to the question: would Abaddon have been Abaddon if Erebus did not come up and stab Loken? What would have happened past Horus Heresy if Loken was allowed to live, and if they had that, and if Erebus didn't interject himself at that time?
I think Loken would have
Maybe.
probably went on to be a Grey Knight, for sure.
Grey Knight, or at the very least, a major figure. But also,
Right.
I'm mainly more concerned about what would have happened with Abaddon.
Yeah, I'm
I
definitely.
feel there's no confirmation. I feel like Abaddon would not have become is now War Master Abaddon in 42, splitting the galaxy in half. Yeah.
I feel
don't
like
think that
more,
would have happened
I feel like
unless
more of
Erebus
a
did that.
yeah. I feel like he'd end up being more of like a Huron Blackheart, more of like a
renegade.
neutral. I'm in this for myself. This is I'm going to do my thing. Everybody else can fuck off. I don't care if you leave me alone. I'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
If you fuck with me, I'm gonna fuck with you. Because by that point, he had seen. He was like, Imperium. I want to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm. But at that point,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's kind of where, like, story-wise, we leave Erebus, because he doesn't really show back up in the books. Same for Corpharaon and Lorgar,
Yeah.
essentially.
So, the biggest thing is really in the 40K modern, they're still unified. 100, pretty much 100%, whereas everybody else is kind of broken up into war bands or doing their own thing. Or you have the Sons of Horus that are now the Black Legion.
Oh my god.
I know they're not the same because it's even
Yeah.
explained in the explained
Exactly.
in the Black Legion book
Yeah.
that we're not the Sons of Horus.
So it's like a good litmus test, in my opinion, for whenever somebody gets up, and if you hear somebody with like a fancy hairstyle or anything else, or like a beard, or a particular kind of like a flamboyant way of speaking, and makes a lot of TikToks and short form clips, and they come up and say, "Hey," nobody in particular, I just imagine that person, and they proceed to go and say that Black Legion is directly Sons of Horus, and you're like, I'm not sure about that. I don't think you've read the books, have you? Anyways, but aside from that made up scenario,
One special thing to announce about 40K is that Lorgar's being hunted.
yes,
Lorgar has, because old wounds have not healed very well for a certain Primarch by the name of Corvus Corax. Corvus is currently fucking terrifying Lorgar. Like, to the point of where Lorgar is flying through the warp and seeing swarms of crows flying through the warp with him. There have been reports of seeing a large bird-like.
well, what it mainly is that after the heresy, the word bearers went back to, I forget which planet it is. I gotta be honest, I do not recall the time at which planet it is, but he went back to one of the main temples that Lorgar was in. And inside this temple, it's a safe space. They talk, they chit chat, maybe they smoke some pipe, we don't fucking know. But the long story short is, if you venture outside that monastery for too long on this planet in the warp, you get chased by murders of crows, blackening the skies. And for the past like 10,000 years, Corax, wherever he went off to, is now hunting down Lorgar and is basically besieging him in the warp. And that's where he's been. So the last 10,000 years, Lorgar's been active, doing stuff. Now, granted, I'm sure Lorgar has, not been in one solitary, like, fucking cathedral for the last 10,000 years or some shit.
Nah,
He's
he's
probably moved
been-
around, and then Corax has followed him, stuff like
But
that.
he's been fucking constantly chased by fucking
Yes.
Corax.
Yes, he has a fucking bounty on his head, and that is a persistent hunter, which we get to talk about like 2 legions from now. Yeah.
So last thing I really want to mention is Cyrene.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you don't mind, I want to finish up the organization, expound more on what you said about, like, they're still a little bit unified, and then we'll go on to Cyrene.
okay, yeah, let's do that.
So, like we were saying before, one of the big things that in 40K you have a different scale of unified to shattered, right? With the most unified legion probably being the Death Guard, the least unified probably the Night Lords. Okay, roughly, but take it with a grain of salt. But that's roughly where we're at. Lorgars are the Word Bearers are closer to Death Guard, so they obviously still operate in terms of like war bands, which
I
is
have those war bands.
At the end,
God
not now,
damn it.
but at the end, but
there's not even that many.
okay. Well, after I'm done, okay. But long story short, is that they are still ruled by what's called basically the Dark Council. The Dark Council is the top, basically, head honchos of the word bearers, including Lorgar himself, Corferon, and Erebus. So important to know is that all three develop their own unique
Book of Lorgar.
denominations of religion, so to say. So you have the Erebus denomination, Lorgar denomination, Corferon denomination. So they are all, you can almost think like Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, right? I mean,
Gotcha.
comparing to, not to be sacrilegious, but comparing to, Christianity in that regard. So we're like, it's same belief, but you got some different dogma stuff going on, a little bit different.
Baptists, Methodists, and Episcopalians.
That's a probably better way to put it, yeah. But at the same time, they're still sitting on this one council, going around debating, doing that stuff, and orchestrating.
Christians.
The Council of
oh,
Christ.
Oh, God. But at that point, so war bands are free to do whatever the fuck they want, but if they get a message from Corferon saying, go the right fuck over here, they're probably going to obey.
Right.
So war bands still exist with the word bearers, but at the same time, they're ruled by an overall dark council, such as seen in the Fabius Bile trilogy. Anyways, if you want to go into the war bands.
Yeah, so we have, this is a very short list. I'm assuming they all dress the same. You probably won't find any.
I'm not doing images anymore.
Yeah.
Fucked up. No.
So you have the Forsworn, kind of like in Skyrim, the Iconoclast Brotherhood, the Prophets of the Blighted Path, the Sons of Damnation, the Anointed, the Sanctified, and the Weeping Veil. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Yeah, there's 7 of them. Cause it's a council of 7, ain't it? I think.
I guarantee you, there's more. I mean, there's more war bands, whatever out there. There's a little more obscure, a little more this, a little more that. I mean, there's
probably
there's
the
a
most
myriad of
prevalent
different war
ones.
bands.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like because I want to say they're broke. I want to say they're broken down into like 7 or 8 sects.
If they are, I'm not aware of it, but I'll just say, like, for now, at least take it out of that.
Chad, if you know, let us know.
Yeah, put it in the comments. If you know, put it in the comments. Okay, so now if you want to go into
Okay, so
Cyrene,
so
this is the big one right here.
yeah. So we touched on Cyrene a little bit about how she
also known as the Blessed Lady.
Yeah, the Blessed Lady, how she died, came back on Terra with all that. She ended up getting crushed by the wall that fucking John unmade with Annuncia. Rogel Dorn ends up finding her while he's bebopping through fucking Terra on Rogel Dorn's adventures.
That's
through
the funniest thing, because if you knew who the fuck she was, it just
Insta-death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was after she kind of like merged with another member of the Argonauts.
Exactly. And so she ends up coming back, and there's the big thing, there's the big psychic blast from the Emperor that heals everything all of a sudden, and she's now back to 100% full health, and
Not blind.
yeah, no, she's still blind.
Wow. That's the
No,
one
no,
thing.
she has sight. She has sight.
Oh yeah,
has
she
sight.
could see by that point because she was like, she had like psychic sight and all that fucking thing.
I think she can see for real, if I'm not
I was
mistaken.
gonna say, I'm
Could
like,
she?
damn.
Yeah, because she merged with Cat. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
merged with the
Yeah.
Psyker and
'Cause-
ended up taking on
yeah.
a different name.
Because with her initial thing, whenever she was revived, she still aged normally, but whenever she was with the Argonauts in the beginning, she was like an old crone. But then she merged with Cat, and then she out of the rubble due to basically their psychic link they shared. And then suddenly she came out of the rubble, and she was basically kind of merged into one person. She's like, I'm young again. And that was it.
And then she takes didn't she take the name Cat for a
No,
while?
she took a different name. I do not recall which one was entirely different name. Yeah. Jamie, pull that up.
Okay.
I'll just put down Cyrene into whatever else. But while he's looking that up, the biggest thing is the entire fact that, in case you didn't know, as detailed in the Black Legion duo book, it's supposed to be a trilogy. Where's the fuck third book? GW, fucking tell me. But,
so what I've heard is that apparently ADB is waiting to make sure that
really?
to make sure that nothing that he writes contradicts with any new Black Legion lore.
interesting. Okay.
So-
That does make sense.
So I
because
can
a lot of stuff's
I
happened
can
with Black Legion.
I can respect that. Wait until Black Legion is done a little bit to
Yeah.
see, to kind of, see where they're settling
Fair.
before he, because he's probably got fucking a rough draft like ready to go, and he's just waiting to see.
Yep, there it is. Katarina
Okay.
Moriana. Yep.
Acte is the name that she took.
Acte
No,
discovered that her mind had melted with that of cats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
proclaimed herself Katerina Moriana.
Yeah, Moriana.
Moriana, yep. And now here's the deal. In case you didn't know, there's actually somebody who was basically one day, as the Black Legion was getting started, they sought out an old seer. And when they found her, it was by the name of
Moriana.
Which also, if I'm not mistaken, also ties back into inspiration from Arthurian legends.
The Morrigan.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, she's basically a dark seer and advisor to Abaddon. So this is really fucking cool because you're looking back at this and it's one of the few characters we have where you can directly trace at least the spirit of the character from straight up before in the Great Crusade, before the Horus Heresy even fucking happened, before they started planning for the Horus Heresy, all the way up until modern 40k, where she is advising Abaddon. She's been there every step of the way. Every single fucking step of the way. That's insane.
And the whole time, even in the Siege of Terra, she had like her own it seemed like she had her own motive for what she was doing. And I don't know if it's still that way, but I feel like she could still have her own motive for whatever she's doing.
Well, she is, because the way she's kind of like, she acts specifically at the end of Siege of Terra, as well into basically in the Black Legion books, is very much of her own volition, right? She's not Erebus. She's not a dark apostle to where she's saying, oh, for the glory of the dark gods, yeah. She's not some zealot. She's somebody who knows what's going on, but very clearly she herself is in control, and she's more of a knowledgeable, wise woman, wise sage type deal, but she chooses her own path voluntarily, which also makes Abaddon like her and respect her for her gifts, but also because it's not like she's just some slave to the dark gods.
Right.
Yeah.
It goes back to the control, not controlled.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that was so much easier than I thought it was going to be.
That was a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, we're actually...
Yes. But anyways, before we go off, is there anything else we missed that we should add on?
I don't think so.
No.
So
I mean, the
Fuck
Warbearers
Erebus.
have been pretty much pivotal in literally everything that's happened.
I
in
would
the
like
Horus
to
Heresy.
do a future episode just discussing, and if nothing, I'll do like a solo episode if you want on this, if you guys care, if you guys don't care about this, but like delving into like the philosophy of the word bearers, like pre versus post heresy, and all this stuff, because that'd be an interesting thing. Because again, it delves into the case of like, how does it relate to the Lictitio Divinatus? How does it relate to modern Lictitio Divinatus? How does it relate to their view of the Emperor as a god? How is it viewed to their view of the Chaos Gods? Specific differences between the different sects, stuff like that. Their view on demons or the Neverborn, stuff like that. So that could be a cool video coming in the future.
I do
Somewhere
like
between
that.
now and 2050. I don't fucking know. And we'll go from there. But in the meantime, if we miss anything, let us know in the comments or anything else. Have a good conversation down there.
And if you like what you heard and you made it this far, fucking congratulations. You must really like what we say, or you just have us in the background
If you
playing.
watch the entire thing, you're probably painting, you fucking nerd.
You like us. You really like us.
Hey, that model you're working on, it looks beautiful. Keep it up,
does.
buddy.
Unless you don't thin your paints. And then
Yeah,
it looks
that's
fucking
probably ugly.
terrible.
Yeah.
And thin your paints
Yeah.
because no one wants a clearance.
No one wants a clearance.
Indeed.
No.
And but up until next episode, we have salamanders, right?
Oh, yes.
Your buddy's gonna be so happy. The first request we got for a video,
Was on the salamanders,
Was on the
and here we
salamanders.
are a year later,
and a
finally
year
doing
later,
it.
we can finally let him know, buddy, this is for you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, buddy. Next is your time to
You're
shine.
almost here, man.
Yep.
Just
Maybe
survive a little bit
salamanders in
longer.
Paris.
Yep.
Yep.
That needs to be the intro. We just need to play Salamanders in
again.
Paris.
Do a remix, yeah.
But I guess until next time.
Until next time.
Until
Fuck it, we
next time.
ball.
Fuck it, we ball.